Hi guys, welcome to the Jinn and Tonic Show. It's the 15th of June. It's another episode discussing Islam. I know people are sick and tired of it sometimes, especially the Muslims, but that's the way that it works. We are focusing on this. We are providing a platform. And as far as I know, we are the only English-speaking platform on the entire planet, which is offering this kind of a service where people can call in and can go and discuss Islam without any kind of censorship. So, welcome, Rob. I'm hosting today because Rob has a bit of a flaky internet connection at the moment, and that is why he said, let me host it because he needs to still sort it out. He's had to
Yeah,
play with
good
this, but
evening. Yeah, I've had a crap day today with BT, who is the provider in the UK. And oh my God, I had the BT engineer out for 2 hours yesterday. I'm getting a very slow upload speed, so that consequently also slows down my download. And it's been on and off today. So I said, please, Stops, can you, if I get disconnected, you've still got the amazing Stops to carry on. So although we both look like we're on the Jinn and Tonic icons, I've asked Stops to run it today. So thanks for that, Stops. I appreciate it. Hopefully the internet's working again next Friday. I'll be on the phone to them again tomorrow.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a couple of topics. There have been a couple of questions, and let me get those out of the way. Like, what happened to the iTunes podcast? Well, this was done by Jews for Jesus, and this was a friendly service by him because it was simply getting too much work. Remember, I was doing this alone for a while, and then there was, you had the preparation before that, and then when it was finished, I had to download everything, provide the thumbnail, put everything into the archive, and do all these things, and then answer comments and things like that all the time. And then to create the iTunes podcast, I just said, look, it's too much. I've got everything on the archive. If anybody wants to listen to it, it's very easy. Go to the archive, download it. And now to go and do it on iTunes as well, it was too much for me. But if anybody wants to do it, you're welcome to do so. It's a pity that Jews for Jesus, I don't know, has somehow lost interest and is now doing other things. He was a huge help, always a very welcome guest, and had some very good things to say, was very useful contributor. But unfortunately, things change. This is daily stuff. My wife just lost, one of her best friends. And she says, listen, are we really getting to that age now where people are starting to die around you? And I said, well, I think it's a matter of the longer you live, the higher the chances are that people around you are going to die. Okay, she died in a car crash, and it happens. I've just lost a close friend in a car crash, and my wife also said, "Yeah, but now we've lost 3 friends within a very short time period, and your brother, and what is going on? And all within the last 2-3 years. Is this now? Is this going to continue? That people are going to die around? I think it happens. Shit happens. So."
Yeah, it's sad.
And this is
Isn't it?
life, and these are the things. Like, I used to be able to do things then, from the Middle East. It was quite comfortable, actually, because I was doing everything via VPN, and I didn't have to worry about anything. If I wanted to have some fun, I used to switch it off and then see what pages were available to normal people who didn't have the luxury of a VPN. But other than that, it was okay. I mean, the speeds were okay. I remember once in Kabul, the link was broken between what was it, Pakistan and the rest of the world or something, because they were blocking everything on YouTube because they didn't like. I think this was the time when they had this Muhammad video, so they blocked everything so that nobody could watch the Muhammad video. Yeah, that's so funny. Anyway, so this is life. Things change. I couldn't do this because things for me changed, and then I had to be on the road a lot, so I couldn't. Now at the moment things have quietened down. Okay, let's see what happens. Next month. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, Stops, have you got the archive link that we can pop into the chat for people who want to watch it, or into our chat here, and I'll put it on if you've got it somewhere, because I don't think people know. And I think you've given it to me, but I'd have to go look for it.
somewhere. Yes, I do. Who am I supporting in the World Cup? World Cup, what is that? World Cup, World Cup. There was something. I remember something about some World Cup.
By the way, if you enjoy being on the show and you like having Friday evenings to listen to us and converse with each other, throw us a few thumbs up in our direction. We've got 28 people watching and 5 thumbs up and already 1 down. I'd love to hear what the thumb down is for. Maybe just the show starting, something like that. that would be pretty sad. But normally there's a reason, but I guess people find it difficult sometimes to articulate reasons. Go ahead, Stops. What were you going to say?
I'm now looking for the archive thing, Jinn and Tonic, and it is, your search did not match any.
If you're a viewer, either whether you're a non-Muslim or a Muslim and you want to join the show and talk to us around the Quranic miracles or any of the other topics that we're going to cover tonight, let me know in the chat, or Stops. We'll both be monitoring. You do need to friend me on Facebook, though, so I'll send you my Facebook link, because we don't post the chat directly into. We don't post the link directly into the chat because we get trolls jumping in. So there's my Facebook link that's just been posted now into the chat. We will be having a gentleman who has asked. He's been on before. He's a non-Muslim, I believe, if I remember correctly, and he'll be joining us a little bit later once we've gone through a little bit of the topics here. And I've lost his.
I've got the archive, but I don't know how to copy now, because all I have is the search, but I don't know how to get into, or what happens if I sign in. Maybe then I will get a link.
Yeah, you might have to sign in for it. The beauty of technology, right?
Okay, but I still only get the search. I don't get the. I am now logged in, but I can't. Okay, what happens if I go into here, my library? Here we go. At the Jinn and Tonic Show. So let me copy this, put this in here. Alhamdulillah, there we go.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Okay, and by the way, I'm not going to say happy end of Ramadan. If you do this fasting thing, I think it's entirely your own fault. So what the hell?
Yes, I think we believe it's pretty clear that it's not particularly healthy, the way that it's done.
Okay, so like I said, if anybody wants to do the Jinn and Tonic Show iTunes podcast, you're more than welcome to do so. You put it in there already. Okay,
I have indeed. Yep. Cool. Let's answer a few questions, because you wanted to answer a few questions first, and we'll do a couple of crazy
comments. I wanted to go to this Adnan thing. Now, this is one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later, because this is, apologetics 101. You have different ways of approaching these things. And what Adnan is doing, I think, is the most disingenuous one and the most dishonest one. But that's the way it works. I mean, they are desperate. And if you confront them with the facts, then, okay, I have a new motto. And I don't know if I should make this into a video channel or if I should just put it, but it's going to be part of me. And the motto is facts, not fakes. Okay?
Nice.
Sweet and simple. And that's the way that it works. That's the way how I work. This is me as a person. Facts, not fakes. And that is the way that I work. And this is why I am so hard up on some people sometimes, because I get so bloody frustrated when they come with their fakes, because I'm all about facts. And this is what Adnan and other apologists are doing. They give you fakes. And these are the things we're going to talk about a little bit today, to show how people are doing that, what they are doing, and what the effect of that is. Now, the history of the Quran we've talked about a lot of times. There was somebody in the chat who brought up the topic, but I don't quite get where this is going. So if you, whoever this was, I can't remember who this was, if you want to know anything specific about the history, remember 2 things. Yes, you can ask. The other thing is, nobody knows. Okay, I'm frightfully honest about this. We don't have anything in writing. We have indications, we have pointers, we have things indicating, we have other people commenting on something. And this is the only thing that I can give you. If those people were wrong. This is why, for example, I always remember this because Saracen said that there were Arabic texts before Islam. And now people are finding out, no, they were falsely attributed to people before Islam. And it actually turns out that they were written after that, because I have found out that there are no texts before Islam, because Arabic was codified through the Quran. Before that, there was a wild mixture. Remember, with the Nabateans, with Syriac, with Aramaic, and all these different languages at the time, you had different Arabic dialects developing across the region, but there was no one language the way that you have it today. And this is the way that works. So we have indications, we have certain things that point towards things, but there is nothing definitive here when it comes to the history. What we do know is, because it's based on geology, it's based on agriculture, it's based on other things, is, for example, things that Mecca, the way that it is described in the Sunnah, can't possibly be the Mecca that we have today as Mecca in the Hijaz in Saudi Arabia, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That is impossible. So there we have facts, but a lot of other things. Then people say, well, where was it? I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I know in this case that what it is not, but it is not something that I can say, but I have the alternative, which is this. So it's not very satisfactory at the moment, I'm afraid, but that's the way that it is.
Okay, yeah. Somebody's asking me a question there, or making a statement rather. Rob, I got to say that Hamza did not live up to the hype, just another Muslim butthurt due to Islam being criticized. Yeah, I do agree. All I originally said was that he's a polite fella.
Yes, exactly.
That's all I've said. I've never said that he's an intellectual or he's got good arguments or anything like that. And I think Stops pointed it out in one of his, and I think it might even be one of the comments that I'm going to read shortly. So I agree. And if you watch the one with Phil, then which is part of the live stream, and just by the way, I have already edited and I'm uploading, or have uploaded, the high quality versions, but that's going to Patreons first, and then I'll release that in the next sort of week or so to the general public. So if you want to support me on Patreon, because from now on, by the way, when I go to Speaker's Corner, I'm only live streaming to Patreons. So that'll be what I'll do in the future. I'll live stream straight to Patreon people. I'll then keep the recordings. I'll upload that. Patrons get them first, then it'll go onto my channel about a week later. I just need the support if you guys want me to get down to Speaker's Corner every month. So if you watch it when it comes out, if you haven't, you go watch the live stream. That's free on my channel at the moment. And so he had a discussion with Phil there, and obviously Phil, while Phil's not an expert like Stops is on the Quran, Phil knows the arguments quite well, the different arguments, and he obviously can pick up fallacious claims. And he just did a nice debate with a philosopher in the US. So again, go and have a look at Skydive Phil's channel.
He's very good at this.
Very good. He's done a lot of study now on animal suffering, and that is a very strong argument against the omnibenevolent God. He's gone quite deep into that. He's had it backwards and forwards apparently with William Lane Craig. He was showing me some of the stuff he's done. I mean, cosmology is still his main thing, but the animal suffering, he's really focused quite a lot on that. I think he's got very strong arguments there. But go and look at this thing with Hamza and Phil, and you'll see the claim that Hamza is making, that atheists are biased. But he never substantiated that in any way. He just made loose claims about it, and Phil tried to get to the point. Yes, we all have some bias. What do you actually mean by a bias? And we never got anything substantial. The same thing when he challenged Kalam, because I think it's on the COE channel. There's one with Hamza and Kalam, and then the second half of the video is with Hamza and Phil. Even with Kalam, he's like, Kalam, you shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, what is he actually doing? And we never heard any specifics.
Yeah, and as everybody knows, I have a huge amount of respect for Kalam, and there is nobody that can touch him. Sarah is very good on the logic side, but he doesn't have the facts. Whereas Kalam is absolutely fucking amazing when it comes to anything in history. It doesn't matter where you touch, it doesn't matter where you put your finger. He has the facts, he has the figures, he has the names, he has the background, he has the picture. This guy is so amazing. I can see how this would be a dream team. Okay, how you can get somebody like Phil and Kalam and Sarah and Rob, and if there would be a core group like this, you could wipe any argument within minutes. This would be such an unbeatable group if we can get this together, because there's so much knowledge there. There's so much background. I didn't even know, because Kalam is such a modest person. He has never said that he actually speaks Arabic, and all of a sudden he can argue Arabic grammar. Come on, where does he get this from? It's amazing.
Does he speak Arabic, or has he just studied certain parts like you have? You studied certain Arabic.
Yeah, but he can argue the points. I just know a couple of words, okay? But he knows the background. He knows a lot more grammar than I do. And that's amazing. And I show off, every single time. Hey, man, I'm the main. I know all these things. But he's like, oh, no, nothing really. But hang on. If you go into here, then you need to look at this and there and there. And then he goes into all this detailed stuff. And I'm sitting there wide open mouth and wow, okay. Before let me just go through the chat a little bit, because it's otherwise it builds up.
It gets missed, doesn't it? Otherwise it scrolls up and you can't see it eventually. So you do get.
And then we go to crazy comments a bit, and then
we haven't got many. So Rafi will be glad to hear. Other people I think enjoy it, but there we go.
So rest in peace, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 0 to 5. Okay, we're talking about football here, that they were creamed by the Russians, who had a great start. So this is quite funny. But then again, I've got an article about this where a fatwa was issued declaring football as un-Islamic, because you can't have men running around in shorts.
Oh dear. Presumably, it would be okay if they were wearing like a full clothing and like a
male burkini now. These guys really. Maybe I always bring this as an example, but I think here it's fitting. The rest of the world is debating the responsible, research on stem cells, and in Saudi Arabia, they're discussing whether it is lawful for a woman to lie next to her husband naked. This is the
centuries behind, isn't it? It's like you're trying to bring, people's ideology, psychology rather, that are centuries behind into the it's like if we suddenly were transported into 500 years in the future, we'd look like, cavemen. They would have, hopefully, if religion hasn't taken over and we had advanced past religion, we'd feel like cavemen there. And that's how these people are to us today. So that's why they struggle.
For fuck's sake, scientific miracles. Yay! That's exactly what we're doing. It's an oxymoron, I know, because you can't have scientific miracles. It's stupid. It's a stupid term. I mean, trust Muslim apologists to come up with something like this. But I see that it's coming up again. It's getting more popular again. It's being propagated more. This No Clash channel is so amazingly popular. I can't believe it. Because Muslims are getting so desperate, because they're getting hit so hard, left, right, and center, that they are craving for any kind of justification or any kind of confirmation, anything that is positive about their belief, because they are so hard up at the moment.
Stops, can you give us the channel for that? Because I think people might be interested just to see how it's all set up and done and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, the channel there is No Clash.
No Clash, okay.
And in No Clash for short. And this is a group which is burning money like crazy, because they're hiring people. They're hiring like really like a high-class director who's done things, and they make but then I point out in the video that I made about them, they make stupid mistakes, all right? Stupid, really stupid. Like the script writer. How can you have a script writer in every single episode and they have never gone and corrected it? Somebody must have noticed that it's spelled wrong. You make a
script writer for that
production, and then it's something like that.
Well, don't worry, I got it wrong, but then I think you pointed it out somewhere. Was it you who pointed out that I made a spelling mistake somewhere along the line? Which I corrected, after you had pointed it out.
Yeah, but this is you're not spending thousands on this. Okay, you're not a professional
that's true.
Production. You don't have an entire team. They've got like 20 people in the background writing all this stuff. And you've got this Dr. blah, 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 I don't even remember his name, doing all the content, doing the main line. And none of these 20 people actually figure out, hang on, there's a spelling error. It takes me, come on, I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody. And I watch this and I can see that this is like really terrible. And the way that the audio, you can hear it. Now, I took a segment of the audio where you can hear how the audio is being inserted, and it's like totally not normalized. It's a different pitch, different everything. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And this is and all the Muslims are going crazy how professional this production is and how wonderful this woman is who's sitting there without a hijab and she knows all this stuff about the Quran. They don't understand that Claire is just a presenter. She's being paid a lot of money just to sit there. And I suppose she's getting a lot of flack. I don't know if
She's using autocue, probably teleprompter.
of course, yes. But I wonder if this is going to impact her future, life as a presenter, because this is a low in her career for sure. Okay, so we don't feel that the scientific claims that are being propagated again. How do you say propagated as propaganda? So I think it's time that we just quickly run through them and show people what they are. Okay, Jinn, talk about that thing with the writings on it, this history. Okay, we've done the history of the Quran. I don't know how many times, and actually quite recently. It's Eric Rhetoric who wants to know that thing with the writings on it. It's called paper, but I don't think you want to talk about paper written before the Quran. I don't know if you're talking about the Birmingham script, if you're talking, or this little fragment, or if you're talking about the script that was found in Yemen in Sana'a, because there's different things. So what we know about the history is flaky at best, and we do not have the means to piece it together. And KSA, Saudi Arabia, is not allowing any kind of research. I mean, even Professor Point, from the Uni Saarbrücken was, checked out because it was getting a little bit too close. And they've never really released all of it. Yes, there are some things that he hinted at, but not all the photographs. All the analysis that they have done has not been released. I only have one book by him here. Wait, what does he say here? This is okay. It doesn't matter. But where he sort of talks a little bit about it and he gives the background, but he never does the full analysis. So it's very difficult to get like your fingers on real historic texts and fragments to actually put everything together. Okay, can we talk about Adnan's debate with Jamie? Okay, that is one of those things that we're going to.
Shall we do that afterwards?
We do this afterwards.
Yeah, we definitely go through that.
Eid Mubarak.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that. Thank you for your answer. Scientific fingerprints. Yeah. It's it's amazing. Fingerprints which get cut off at some stage because it's actually the fingertips, but who cares? Can I still remember the word? No, I can't. I thought I can show off, but I can't. I like the embryology miracle. Yeah, okay, we can talk about later. Thanks, Lily. Yeah, exactly. Car crashes happen all the time. We have a family now. Hopefully, Stops will cover embryology. Yeah, sure. Oh, that was you. What about the blood clot? Yeah, exactly. Alaka and Nutfa and Mutka and all that. We're going to talk about that just now. Embryo looks like a leech. Yeah, I'm not too pissed. Or too pissed. So not tonight. Okay. Sorry, Lily, not tonight. He's too pissed. Damn leech, it sucks the life force of the mind. And polite Hamza. Okay, you said you're going to have something like that, because I maintain that he's really a disappointment. Yes, he doesn't scream at people, and yes, he says, yeah, let's all be respectful, and that's blah blah. But at the end of the day, he's just an idiot. Sperm from backbone, yeah, okay. Da da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. What words in Arabic? James. Why does Shia hate Aisha? Why does she believe that she was part of the plot to poison him? I don't know. There are so many stories around this, and some Shia say no, it's actually it's a conspiracy theory too. Yes, there are some Shia who do, because she has blocked the way. Remember, the whole the conflict is about whether it's heritage or whether it's democratic. Because remember that Abu Bakr was elected, and this was not an inheritance thing of kind of thing, because all the sons of Muhammad apparently died. Then he adopted a son, which he wasn't allowed to do, because then God came and said, no, you're not allowed to adopt anyone. And that left no children except for Fatima, who is, the daughter that survived. And so Fatima had a son, and then this should have been the true caliph, because this is a descendant of Muhammad who was part of the Quraysh, and Aisha was not. She was through Abu Bakr, but she was just the married wife, or somebody who an attachment to Muhammad, who favored Aisha over Fatima and the whole lineage. So it's about the lineage as opposed to a democratic election or appointment or something like this. So that's the whole issue there. I mean, it's in my eyes, it's a bit, I don't know, what do you call that? I don't want to call it stupid, because it's not stupid. It's banal. It's really not so relevant, but they're making a huge deal out of that. And this I never been. Yeah. Has Stops ever been to Speaker's Corner? Yes, I've been to Speaker's Corner several years ago, when it was still a normal Speaker's Corner, a proper Speaker's Corner. Because
have you been? Sorry, I thought you'd never been.
Yeah. But this is before Islam, before everything.
Okay.
Because I used to be regional, and I had several countries, and that's why we had conferences in London. And yes, so I've been to London a couple of times.
Yeah, I thought you'd been to London. I just wasn't sure you'd been to Speaker's Corner. So that was obviously years ago.
You spend 2-3 days there if you have a conference or something, okay?
Yeah.
A couple of days, and then you go for a walk, and then of course you take a cab to Speaker's Corner, just to take a look at the place. The same as I went to Madame Tussauds and the Tower. It's tour. Did you guys see the debate between Imam Tawhid and was it Islam was embarrassing to watch Tahiti? Is after okay.
All right, shall we do the crazy comments?
Let's do the crazy comments.
Yeah, it's not many, so it won't take too long. Let me make sure we can present to everybody. Here we go. Okay. First one is our good friend Ali Dawa. And I'll bet my life this man knows zero about Islam. That's why I confront such bigots, and they can't come a single word.
Yeah. Pull in, cousin. Come. Let's talk.
Pat, let's debate if you're so sure, because that's just Pat Condell. And I said at the bottom here, yeah, exactly. I said at the bottom here, why don't you come on the Jinn and Tonic Show and confront my co-host and expose him? How long do we have to wait? An actual infinity?
I love that. Yeah, this is so good. The next time somebody says there is no actual real infinity, yes, there is. It's the time it takes for Ali to arrive on the Jinn and Tonic Show.
Exactly. So, but he likes to, to go and challenge these people that have got a big following that he thinks don't know much about Islam. But he wouldn't dare come on the show and speak to you or Christian Prince, that sort of thing. People who aren't quite knowledgeable in the Quran. So, yes, I'll keep asking the question, and we'll see if we ever get a response. But I think the infinity, and actual infinity, is about to occur for us. So there we go. Here's one from you. Oh, no, this was a different one. I don't get it, really. I don't. Why can't people understand that someone making derogatory remarks about Muslims who knows Tommy does not make Tommy a racist? No, the event was propagating free speech, not listening to the backward opinions of some half-educated kid who believes in flying donkeys and hates tolerance and free speech. No, the headphone guy is an idiot. Freedoms are not localized and time-based. A private event on a topic does not automatically include anyone on the planet to have a go on stage. And then he chirps Rob as a misunderstanding. Unbelievable. All true. And then here's a response. Here's a response from some fella to you. When people are doing it, mocking, provoking, it's freedom of speech. When a Muslim do it, it's provocation. That's disingenuous, double standard. It's obviously idiotic.
He doesn't understand it. Yeah.
I know he doesn't. It's making me cringe. Rob, Gary, Shia, Jake, Google, tan, all the same basket, sick-minded, and it's funny, they can't see it, blind. Even a child could tell it's a double standard. For a grown man who didn't get it, that tells me something. Yeah, obviously this, and most Muslims don't get this, and of course Ali didn't get it either. They don't understand the difference between them having freedom of speech and them not being allowed to speak on stage at a private event where they are advocating for freedom of speech. Why would they have somebody advocating against it on a stage for that particular purpose? But of course, this is lost, unfortunately, as you quite rightly point out, in no uncertain way there. So yeah, the freedom of speech thing is just so easy to dismantle. But as you quite rightly point out, these people just don't get it. It's like, it really is, they've got a mental block around this freedom of speech thing. Even when you point out the counterfactuals and bring up, counter examples, it's just, it bypasses them completely. So I did like your comment particularly. So, and the last one for the day. I've always said, before I bring this up, let me go back to, I've always talked about, and you've probably heard me many times talk about not being critical enough. I do not believe that any theist has examined their own worldview with enough of a critical eye. And here I'm going to give you an example, in my opinion, of exactly that. And so this was a conversation I had with Paul Williams on Twitter. Because Paul, as you may have seen in my live stream, had a conversation with Jamie around the numerical error of the inheritance. And so it's sort of, I just caught the last part of this. And Paul sort of says, yeah, I have no particular preference. This was in response to me going, and you'll see it in a moment what I'm talking about here. On a different note, he asked me why I'm an atheist. And so I said to him, don't you think it's important to find out which proposed solution to the inheritance verses is true, since they contradict each other? And what I mean by that, and we'll talk about that, and we'll bring up the website. There's a website that claims that there's no contradiction at all, and that it's a translation error, etc., etc. And then you've got hijab claiming Mumbaria, which does apparently allow for numbers going over 1, because they can go under 1 as well. So there's no reason why they can't go over 1, according to hijab's logic. So there's two different things. And thanks to Detective Inspector Monkfish for actually pointing out that there's a contradiction between these two. And so I said to him, hey, there's these two different proposed solutions in inverted commas, and which one would you take? And so he ignored that initially and said, what sort of evidence would you want for God? And so I responded, let me know which solution you accept for the inheritance after you've evaluated them both closely. And the classic response, unfortunately, from Paul, or unfortunately, frankly, I don't have to choose. I'm satisfied that there are possible solutions. And this, for me, is a quintessential example of not being critical. Instead of going to look at both solutions and trying to work out whether which one of them, if any, in his worldview, is more likely to be true, he just is satisfied that there are possible solutions. And Jamie has joined our small group. So welcome to Jamie, to our small group that's got Stops and some other people in it. And I've sent him the link, because next time he goes to Speaker's Corner, Paul is going to claim that there are solutions. And once Jamie's done a bit of his homework, as I'm sure he will next time he goes down, he will be able to ask Paul, which solution do you accept? Because they contradict each other. And let's talk about the supposed solution, because we'll do some of that tonight anyway, and Stops will give his view and I'll give mine to whatever degree as well.
Is Jamie somebody who goes online? Maybe we can just exchange views, information, what our approach is.
Jamie has joined. He's supporting me on Patreon. He will be coming on here at some point whenever he's available. He said he might not be able to make it tonight, but Jamie is the guy that stood up and challenged Adnan. He was also the guy that spoke to Paul. So we will have Jamie on. He is part of our group now as well. Stops, I invited him. He's joined. So in that small group that you and I and a couple of other people are part of with TDS Dave, he's in there. So he'll be joining us. So yes, I'd love to have him on. And as soon as he's available, we'll do that. But I wanted to just highlight this because, for me, this is the epitome of not being critical. And Paul is not a stupid guy. He's very critical of the Christian view, and he'll go into depth there, but put it on his own view, where we have, I believe, a knockdown argument against this Islamic claim that the Quran is error-free. And this is the response. I'm satisfied that there are possible solutions. So I'll leave it there for now. That's the only ones I've got for the moment. I have got some news articles which we might come back to. I'll save them for next time because I think we'll have plenty to talk about tonight. I have got Zoe who wants to join us as well. He's not necessarily going to confront us on these things. Zoe is still somebody who's evaluating Islam. He is a Muslim, but he's evaluating Islam, etc. So we're not going to challenge him too heavily unless he wants to challenge us in some way. And actually, he doesn't find the what did he say to me? He doesn't find some of the points particularly strong in any case. So he's not going to be he's not impressed with the prophecies. So He'll be joining us, and so will the liberal guy, I think, as well. I've sent them a link. So we'll leave it for now for that. I won't do the news articles for the moment. I'm sure there's plenty else we can go into. Welcome, Detective Inspector Monkfish there. So Stops, do you want to start us off then? I'll bring in the other guys as we go through and they can join us. Do you want to start off with perhaps
so we're going to talk
embryology,
a little
or
bit
what do you
about
fancy?
scientific miracle.
Yeah.
There's this claim. Okay, do I really need to go to the beginning? Okay, there was a crisis about 50 years ago when Muslims realized, oh shit, we are standing watching the world go by and non-Muslims making discovery after discovery after discovery, and we're contributing absolutely zilch. So they had this crisis, and then this guy from Yemen called Zindani went to Cairo, wanted to be a Muslim Islamic scholar, and Al-Azhar sent him away saying he was too radical. He was picked up by Nagar. Nagar, I don't know. There's a whole story behind Nagar and all that. Anyway, he put him in touch with a sponsor in Jeddah. He went to Riyadh, and then opened up a new kind of branch with a new idea. And this is why he got a lot of money from his sponsor. The sponsor was called Osama bin Laden. And he then, this Zindani guy, then opened up a new idea, which is science in Islam and science in the Quran. And he went to the court of the king in Riyadh and found a French doctor, a gastroenterologist by the name of Bouquet, and allegedly paid him $1 million a year for 4 years. Got something like 150 different Quran schools or madrasas, and they went and they took apart every single word in the Quran. And every word that you could in some way change, modify, update, or something, they did. So, for example, if you were the king of France and you went on your balcony in the morning and you looked at your expansive estate, then this, everybody understood, was a huge estate. And by chance, it is said that Allah created a vast universe, which is an expansive universe. But then in 1929, Edwin Hubble, he published his papers, his findings on an expanding universe. So Bouquet changed the word expansive into expanding, and lo and behold, suddenly the Quran matched what science was finding. So what they did is they were following science, because they saw that science is the only way to go and approach any kind of reality that we have in nature today. So all of a sudden, words were changed in the Quran, but things with this expanding universe, for example, they made mistakes because they say, and God was steadily expanding it. Remember, they changed the expansive to expanding, but they wanted to be super clever and changed it to steadily expanding. But now, the funny thing is, 20 years ago, we found out that it is not steadily expanding, it is increasing in speed. So there is an acceleration. It's no longer steadily expanding. So this was a mistake. Oh shit. Well, now all the Qurans had to be changed again, and they had to take out the steadily to keep only the expanding. But they didn't do a good job of it. They botched it. So you still today have Quran versions which say steadily expanding, which is a mistake. It's a factual error in the Quran because they tried to be super clever, trying to put science in there, and botched it. Okay, that's just one example. So Bouquet came up with, I think it was 115 or so different instances of that. I mean, there were other things. Like, for example, he simply made stuff up. He said that Haman, for example, was found in hieroglyphs in Egypt, which was not the case. Because if you look at it, he was pointing to a book that doesn't exist where it says this, which was pointing to a stele and a monument in a museum that doesn't exist, and pointing to words that don't exist. So everything that he came up with was just fabrication. He just made it up. And he said, well, he got all this. I mean, he says he was an Egyptologist, and he went to a top Egyptologist and who was also a Islamic scholar, and he was very surprised to find the word Haman in the Quran. Now, how an Islamic scholar can be surprised to find the name Haman in the Quran, I don't know. But this is how childish everything is. You know? Everything that he says, everything is just, stupid once you analyze it. So if you go through all these different science claims, you find that they are stupid. But a lot of Muslims want to believe this. A lot of Muslims want to believe that there is embryology in the Quran when there isn't, or they want to believe that barriers in the sea, the way that it is mentioned in the Quran, that this is actually true. Now, what happens is that Muslim apologists go for individual words. So what they will do is they will say, okay, mountains, for example, everything is true because we have here a book which on page 92, and you need to go to Turner Chris, he did a brilliant response to this, and he showed that none of this is true. The mountains have roots, and therefore the Quran is right. The problem, there's two problems with this. Number one, the Quran doesn't mention roots. There is nothing in the Quran that it says roots. But because it sounds so nice, they will just tell you that, yeah, it's roots, but it's not. There's no word like roots in the Quran. The second thing is, what the book is talking about is not that mountains in any way resemble what is said in the Quran, because in the Quran, everything about mountains is factually false. It's wrong. Mountains are not set on top of the world the way it is said in the Quran. There are 5 different ways that mountains are created on our planet, and they all grow from out of the earth, bottom up to the top, and not the other way around. Mountains still today are forming. The way it was, it's written in the Quran, of course, it's a creation. It was created by Allah, and the mountains were set to stabilize the earth. So that's not true. Mountains are still forming, and because they're still forming, they don't stabilize the earth. I mean, anybody who knows the earthquakes in Italy will know that this is where you have the earthquakes. So this is stupid. Then they say, well, it's not an earthquake, it's the shaking of the ground. Well, in English, we have a word for shaking of the ground. It's earthquake. So, amazing.
Yeah.
So the way that words are being used, these Muslim apologists don't understand that if you talk about the barrier in the sea, if you go into the Quran and you read what it says there, because there's 2 types of claims there. Number one is that 2 oceans don't mix, and then you have that the sweet and the salty oceans don't mix, okay, or seas or whatever.
Fresh water and salt, right?
Yeah, exactly. But now, if you go and look at what they quote as evidence that this is true, you will see that the word barrier is used like completely different in a completely different way, because in the Quran, the barrier is something that cannot be transgressed. You cannot get anything through this barrier. It's like a solid wall. Whereas in reality, if a scientist uses the word barrier, like for example, if you use the word cold front, yes, there's a cold front and there is a demarcation line and there is a barrier zone, but they do mix. And you can see this if you, for example, okay, you have, for example, you have the halocline, okay, or the pycnocline and different things like that, which means water masses in a particular region have a certain, well, attribute or a certain condition. In other words, the density can be higher, salinity can be higher, temperature can be higher or lower or whatever. So you have different regions and bits of water which have different attributes. And these, like for example, I'm in a discussion with a guy at the moment who says that, well, they found something like this in the Amazon. I see Mohammed is joining us, so I will release him.
Yeah, I think that's Zoe, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey Zoe, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Cool. Let's Stops finish his great
My rant.
sort of monologue.
Anyway,
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
What you find is that the sweet water of the Amazon runs into the Pacific Ocean, into the Atlantic Ocean. And what happens is that for a couple of miles, couple of kilometers, the sweet water will flow into the ocean. And because you still have salt water underneath, and because it's just the right temperature, you have corals, salt water corals growing underneath where the Amazon comes in. And this is why they use the word, there is a barrier which prevents the sweet water from the Amazon to sink down because it is a higher temperature than the water which is already present. And they call this a barrier zone. And they show how the temperature declines as you go down, and as you reach this zone, and this barrier zone varies between a couple of centimeters to a couple of meters. It can be 30 meters, as much as 30 meters. So yes, it's a layman term that is being described as a barrier, but it is not a barrier as a wall which nothing can, doesn't let anything through, because the water does, of course, mix. Any water mixes. But if you take a glass of fresh water and a glass of salt water and you slowly pour it in there, you will get different layers. And it takes ages for the two to mix. So you have two different forms of mixing, which will speed this up. Either you have an outside force, which can be wind or any kind of movement, or you can have the natural mixing of water when the two the different attributes sort of mix together, where they take half and half of each and then they go over to the other employer. And you can actually see this. You can see these, and anybody who's gone diving has also felt this. I mean, if you take, because I've got the 40-meter license, when I went down to 40, I could very, very distinctly feel how the different levels change in temperature. But I could go through those barriers. So there is nothing stopping me from going through these different, different haloclines and pycnoclines and blah, 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 blah. So the whole thing is just a battle of words, where they say, well, it's true because this and this scientist uses that and that word, which is stupid. Now, the same thing is true with embryology. Now, what I did in my No Clash video, where I responded to No Clash, what I did was I was actually quite cheeky, because I said, well, if I want to compare reality to the Quran, let's take a textbook. And I said, let's take a textbook by Dr. Keith Moore, because Dr. Keith Moore wrote, I think, 12 or 15 different books with, I don't know how many dozens of editions and how many thousands of prints. So he is an expert in the field, yes. And everything that he writes is that the Quran is just an antique myth. He goes and demonstrates how reality works, what happens in reality. And what I do is I go look at the beginning and I show how Keith Moore, and as do all embryology books, says you have 4 elements right in the beginning, because you have the gonads, and it's very important to point out that they are very, very, very different. Because some people go and say, well, then the nutfa goes and alaka and all this encompasses both. And you need to be very sure that they are very, very different, because the one gonad is outside the body, the other one is inside. The one produces millions, the other one only single ones. The ones are mobile with their own attached flagellum, the other one not, and so on. And the female ovum, the oocyte, is actually the largest cell in the human body. So the two are very, very, very different. And these two are required because they are haploids. In other words, they contain 23 chromosome sets, but not the pairs. So they are incomplete. And it's only the process. So you have the 2 cells, then you have the process of the 2 fusing. And this then completes the genome, and the resulting zygote is then the basis of the life of an embryo, everything starting. So you need these 4 things. And if you know anything about Boolean logic, you know that an AND condition makes it impossible for any one of these 4 components to fail. If any one of these 4 fails, the whole thing stops. And that is what is important in embryology, and that is why the Quran does not mention any of these 4, and therefore it does not contain embryology. But what does the Quran contain? Well, then we go look at the materials. We see every living being, every human being, every living thing is made from water. Is that possible? No, because you can't make anything from water.
Yeah, quite right.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're quite right. They confuse created from water with containing water. Yes, we contain water, but we're not created from water.
Exactly. It's like an aeroplane contains a lot of air, but it's not made from air. So it doesn't work. And then the next thing, we are made from dust. We're made from clay. We're made from mud. But hang on, which one is it? So the Quran contradicts itself with the materials being used for the creation of humans. So the Quran does not know what we are made from. Then if we look at the process, you have 8 different processes, descriptions, and 2 are quite detailed. They contradict one another. So there is different parts of the Quran have different versions of this creation, and they contradict one another. So there is no consensus on what material is being used to create humans. There is no consensus on what process is being used. So there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that resembles embryology in the Quran. And yet people still believe this based on one single thing. That is because this Dr. Moore was paid money by Zidani to go and read 2 different scripts where he says, well, I don't speak Arabic, I have no clue what I'm talking about, but I know that the word alaka must mean leech, or it must be leech-like. How the hell he did this is totally unclear to me, but he did. And this is what he says. It's like a leech. Now, so I went to look what is a leech, and I made a list of all the different attributes or whatever makes up a leech. And it's ridiculous. The number one thing, what people tell me is that the zygote then divides, okay, and it becomes a blastocyst, and then it attaches to the womb. The funny thing is they say the attaching of the womb is the same as a leech biting into the skin. And that is absolute nonsense. Because number one, an embryo doesn't have teeth. A leech has like 100. The leech sucks blood, the embryo doesn't. It's the mother's heart which pumps blood into the embryo. The leech takes blood as nourishment. The embryo doesn't. It's just a transportation method of getting nutrients into the body. So everything in the embryo is totally different from a leech. And the thing is that a leech pumps out all sorts of materials. The embryo doesn't. The leech lives in swampy waters. The embryo doesn't. And most of all leeches are hermaphrodites. And embryos normally are not. So everything that you have about a leech does not apply to an embryo. So how you could get from embryo to leech-like is beyond me, because nothing matches. Then the next thing that you look at, they claim that the Quran, when it says that first the bones are being formed and then clothed with flesh. Well, if you go to Aristotle, you will see this word for word. If you go to Hippocrates or Galen or something, you see this word for word. This is something that was quite funny, because Adnan Rashid did this in Ireland together with Hamza Andreas Sotzes. And they went and ambushed Professor P.Z. Myers. And Professor Myers told them, listen, are you guys moggy or what? It's totally, totally wrong. No, but the Quran says that the bones are formed first and then the flesh. And then Professor Myers said, is that what the Quran says? Are you sure? He said, yeah, that's exactly what it says. Well, then the Quran is wrong, because that's not what happens. They are being created simultaneously. And what does Adnan Rashid say? Well, then the Quran is right, because that's exactly what it says.
You've got to go watch the video. It's exactly what Stops is saying. It is just hilarious.
So it's quite funny. So because they argue, and he did this in a video afterwards, that thumma, the word used here, actually means simultaneous and after that, all at the same time. It's like in chapter 4.3, the word and, the va, suddenly becomes into, or, like owl. So the Arabic va changes from and to or, because you can marry not, like the number of wives that you're allowed to have is not, 2 plus 3 plus 4. 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 4 is 9. No, they don't want that. They want 4. So they say, well, 2 or 3 or 4. So, words are being changed as you want them. Yeah, okay. Okay, yes, Rafa, you're right. I stand corrected. In some cases, they use fa. They use thumma and they use fa. So both words are being used. I should say that for clarity. But both fa and thumma means after that, because the one is then and the other one is after that. And Adnan Rashid suddenly says, well, I mean, it's not only him. It's all sorts of.
Can you tell the viewers, sources, sabur, etc. What's their view now on these
Okay,
scientific
and this is where I'm
miracles,
getting to.
etc.?
What happened after Ireland? Then Hamza Sources went and created this pamphlet. He investigated this chapter 23 because for some reason he decided chapter 23 is the best. And he brought out a pamphlet. So we then corrected him, and then he brought out the version 1.1. Then we corrected him on this. Then he brought out version 1.2. Then we corrected him on this. Then it was version 2.1, 2.2, 2.2b, and so on. And then something interesting happened, because then Captain Disguise and Martin Taberville went and really analyzed it, what Hamza wrote, word for word. And they went into the Quran word for word. They went, because Captain Disguise speaks Arabic, they went into the old dictionaries and said, let's take a look what the old dictionaries actually say about these words, and let's see what Hamza says. And you can see the dishonesty of Hamza, what he was coming up with and what he was saying about what the Quran says and the interpretation thereof. And then, because he took things like this as an example, he took a book where somebody said something about a topic which was then referenced in the footnotes. And then he said in the footnotes, it says this and this, and therefore this is the proof. This is the evidence. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, when this came out, this is called Much Ado About Nothing. It's still available. It's available as a video, as PDF, as a site. There's a whole internet page, all Much Ado About Nothing. So all you have to type in Much Ado About Nothing. Don't worry about Shakespeare. Worry only about what it says about embryology in the Quran. When this came out, this was the ultimate refutation of anything that was claiming there's embryology in the Quran. It was geared towards this Hamza Sources paper, absolutely, but because he used every single trick in the book. Every trick in the book was refuted, debunked, and then ridiculed. So I thought that was it. This will never, never, ever come back again. And it's coming back, because now after a couple of years, people think, nobody knows this anymore. So we can try the next attempt, because new fools were born, and now they don't know about this. So let's try it again. So they don't do any research, and of course, most Muslims being obedient and just not checking, and without this protective critical thinking capability, they will not go and research this. So they will not come to this page in what Rob has just pasted there, the embryology in the Quran, blogspot.com, blah, 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 much ado about nothing. And that's it. It kills it. So we don't really need to discuss this anymore. So I don't understand why people like this No Clash have the gall to come up with this again when it's so easy to refute. Really, it's banal. It's so it's childish to do something like this. Okay, and this is, and I think I will stop here now, because it doesn't matter what the claim is. It doesn't matter whether it's Haman or embryology or banan. That's the word I was looking for. Banan is the fingertips, which suddenly become fingerprints. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And if you take Nur as the reflected light, well, Nur is also an attribute of Allah. So Allah is this big, white, immovable block hanging in the sky. Is that what you want? Is that really what you want? I mean, you need to think of your consequences. So if you then, like what we had the last time with Kenny, when he said smoke, the Dukan, that he said smoke is equal to gas. And he made a video showing, I don't know if it was Wikipedia or some other scientific page. We said, you cannot, people confuse smoke and gas. And then he says, you see smoke and gas as the same thing, basically. So, but you have people who do that. And that is quite strange that people will still maintain these things without understanding Islam, even, because they don't know the consequences of what they are saying. Like this, Allah is Nur. If Allah is Nur, then what does it mean if you now give Nur a totally different meaning? And if you then go, well, it's leech-like, so what you are saying is Allah is a total incompetent fool because he is giving every embryo the ability to be an hermaphrodite. Are you really serious? Is that what you want Allah to do? Is that seriously what you are trying to make the Quran say? You need to think of the consequences that you're doing, and this is what people are not doing. Yeah, and the flat as well. Yeah, exactly. This dahaha. Thank you, Rafa. This is the where is Vidu Viz when you need him? Brother makes a good point there, because I can always almost see Zakir Naik in front of me explaining the dahaha, because the last ha is just it. Okay, daha is a verb meaning to flatten. So what this mental gymnastics has come up with from Bouquet, they have said, well, flatten. Well, the ostrich flattens the earth above the egg, and therefore the dahaha is referring to the egg of the ostrich, which resembles earth shape. There you go. So daha means the ostrich egg. So yeah, but hang on. Number one, earth doesn't look like an egg. And number two, dahaha or daha is a verb. So in other words, Allah egged it. You can't, you need to think what you're doing. Really? Allah egged Earth? The same thing with the Big Bang. They're saying, well, there's Allah says that Earth and the heavens were joined when they were joined, and he clove them asunder. Okay, so he split them, he separated them. Now, number one, this comes from, we can go into Enkidu, and we go into Gilgamesh and all that. You can find this story exactly there. So the Quran simply copies what the Sumerians said. But the point is that if you say Earth and the heavens were separated, and this is the Big Bang, this is an error which is just like 10,000 million years. That's the ballpark figure, the size of the error. And that's what you need to think of the consequences, because Earth was formed roughly 10,000 million years after the Big Bang. So don't come with this bullshit stuff. Don't do that. Come and ask us if it makes sense. We will tell you whether it makes sense or it could make sense or something, and then we can carry on. But don't go and put all your eggs in the basket of one single word, because there it says root and here it says root. No, it doesn't say root. Oh shit, now what? Or daha means ostrich, excuse me, but not really if you look at it. So all these things, if you look at them, so any claim in the Quran, and this is the claim, this is the challenge I have put out to Muslims, because I noticed that any single claim that you find in the Quran, once you go and look at it, once you go and actually analyze it, is wrong. So there you go. That's the scientific miracle claim in the Quran, where none of these claims are correct. They're just making fools of themselves, and they're just making themselves look like idiots. Amen.
There we go. Stops is on a roll tonight, people. He is buzzing. Good stuff, Stops. Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Oh, but one thing I still need to add.
Because go for it.
Hamza Tzortz has retracted his paper.
Yes, I believe so.
And he and the same Sabur also is on this thing now, where they say actually there is no scientific miracle in the Quran. Stop attaching any kind of Islam, any kind of science to Islam and to the Quran. It doesn't work. So they pulled it back, and they said no. They backpedaled and said no, forget.
Yeah, but do you know what they're saying now, though? They're basically half backpedaling, but not
Yeah,
not
it's
entirely.
multi-layer now. Yeah.
Because they're going, no, we shouldn't claim that there's any scientific miracles because science changes. Not the Quran's fault that's got anything wrong. It's the fact that science changes. So we mustn't make any scientific claims because just now science could change and that would make it look wrong. It's never the Quran that's wrong. It's just science that is wrong. So that it's like a half a back pedal, but to try and save themselves from, looking entirely foolish or conceding the point honestly, they make it appear as if it's actually science's fault. So don't do that. But if you're a Muslim and you're listening to this and you don't believe in scientific miracles, then not to worry. You can sleep at least comfortably tonight knowing that we're not challenging you if you don't believe in the scientific miracles. There's so many other things we could challenge.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's not you.
But the funny thing is that they're now saying, well, it's multi-level. So in other words, that the words used in the Quran might look wrong to the people at the moment, but there might be a time to come where they actually make sense. And of course, science will come around to confirm what the Quran says is correct. It's just a temporary lapse that we're having. But the thing is, this was a couple of years ago. What happened then is because they can't leave the science thing alone because they know it's a huge threat. So they came up with the 1001 invention thing, where they said 1,000 years ago, it was actually Islam. It was the Muslims who discovered anything and everything scientific. Even the word algorithm is a derivative of Al-Khwarizmi, and he came up with the first algorithms. It's just that when you ask him, okay, can you give me this algorithm, then they fail. It's always like that. But they really, really try to be scientific somehow because they can see that there is some threat coming from science and they want to be part of the show and they can't.
Yeah, agreed. I think they can see the threat from science and atheism, to use the hit term. And so they're trying all kinds of things to try and, counter that unsuccessfully from our point of view. But they are at least recognizing the massive threat there that's occurring. So obviously,
and of course, they want to be scientific, but as soon as it gets to the theory of evolution, no.
Well, again, if you listen to Sabur, he's going, yes, it's a valid working theory. He even rejected creationism and he even rejected intelligent design. So I don't know what's left. If you're going to reject both of those and you're going to claim that it's a valid working hypothesis, so to me, it's a backpedal there as well. But I want to obviously welcome Zoe to say something, and we've also got the Liberal guy, so I'm bringing you in as well. Liberal guy, good evening, welcome to you. And we'll have another gentleman joining us in a moment as well.
Hello, guys.
Hello, gents.
Hey. Good evening, guys. So your thoughts on what we've discussed so far? There's more that we're going to talk about here as well. We're also going to talk again about the what I consider the knockdown argument that Stops and others have brought up about the inheritance numbers, because that was recently talked about in Speaker's Corner, in which I've got videos and other people have as well. But on what we've talked about so far, have you guys got any thoughts? Zoe is a Muslim, but he's a more relaxed Muslim in the sense that he's not necessarily going to try and defend some of these things. He doesn't believe in some of them either. So before the Liberal guy, Zoe, since you are somewhat of a Muslim, if I can use that term, maybe I'm being unfair. What's your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
I saw the videos of Adnan Rashid and Hamza Tortis talking to, what's his name? Is it PZ Myers?
That's the one, yeah.
That's the one, yeah. And regarding scientific miracles and stuff, typically as a person who comes from the younger generation, we usually see, for example, videos shared of scientific miracles in the Quran, and it's kind of overblown, over exaggerated. And an example of that is, the verse about the fingertips, for example, where it says that I don't know it verbatim, but they usually say that it's talking about fingerprints, that we all have unique fingerprints. But then one time I was reading Tafsir al-Jalalain, and it was actually talking about kind of assembling people together on the day of resurrection. So it's kind of like people, they make their own meanings after, for example, the classical scholars, they wouldn't have known this. They don't know that it's talking about something to do with science. But later on, as years go by, we advance in science and stuff, then it's kind of like people, they attach modern meanings to it. So it's not like what the Quran was actually meant to talk about. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's problematic. So, if you are going to be a Muslim, then it's suggested not to. There's so many other things one can talk about, and maybe you're the same. Let me not say that. What is your view then? Do you think there are any scientific miracles or anything that's scientific, or do you step back and you do not talk about these sort of claims?
To be honest, currently I don't talk about it because I'm not very knowledgeable in this kind of area to do with science and everything. But I just do think it is over-exaggerated a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot more to say on it as well. Liberal guy, what have you? Any thoughts on what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, I just arrived maybe 5 minutes ago, so it's a little bit.
Oh, okay. So
you should comment on this one.
Missed a bit. Okay.
If I could maybe contribute something, it would be, I don't know how to share my screen, but if I could share a link for you.
Yeah, there should be an option.
On the green arrow on the left.
There should be an option there that says share screen on the left, and not everybody's got it though. Interestingly enough, so if you move your cursor, are you on a computer or a mobile?
Yeah, I'm on my computer.
So if you move your cursor over to the left, you should see some little things that pop up on the left-hand side of the screen. Do you see anything there?
Yes, I do. That's great.
The second one down, share screen, click on that, and then choose application window. Otherwise, it does your whole screen. You might not want to share everything on your screen. So when that window pops up, choose application window and choose the application you want to share, and that'll come up, and then I will make sure that everybody can see it.
Beautiful. Let me see. So I'm having... All right, I see. Beautiful. So everybody should be able to see it. Can they see it now?
Yeah, everybody can see it. Go ahead.
Beautiful. So this is scientific miracle by Allah. And since I didn't hear your conversation before, this would be something that I would want to contribute with. And it says here basically that the man's water, thick and white, and the woman's water, thin and yellow, basically sperm and basically the woman's equivalent of woman. Whoever comes first, the child will resemble that parent. So this is also something that Islam proclaim, that whoever comes first, the man versus the woman, the parent will resemble, or the child will resemble that parent. Basically, if the man comes first, you will have more men. And if the woman comes first, you will have more, I guess, female children. If anybody want to comment on this one?
Can I ask a question on that?
Please do.
When it means by comes first, does it literally mean like in that way? Like, for example, if like the man comes first, like sexually, does that mean that the child will be a boy? Is that what it's trying to imply?
It's referring to actually the man's water, meaning sperm, and the woman's basically whatever that is. So that is what it's referring to. So if the man actually comes first, then the sperm will produce more boys.
Okay.
Yeah, since I wasn't here before, maybe I can comment more than that. Maybe someone else want to take over.
Stops will have something to add, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Please.
this refers to the reproductive liquid. Now, if you go and ask them, okay, what is a reproductive liquid of the woman, of the female? They will tell you that the follicle, when it bursts, is also releasing some liquid which releases the ovum. And this is why you have this liquid. It's, I don't know, you can't make this up, really. And they will say this with a straight face. Yeah. And I'm sitting there giggling hysterically because this is really, really funny. But they will expect you to believe this. They look at you and they say, yeah, but this is the way that it is. This is a fact. This is your scientific books that say this. They don't understand that this is absolute bullshit. They don't even understand what they are saying. It's just that somebody told them that this is the way that it is, and they will repeat this, not understanding what they're saying. And this is why they're very shocked if you sit there and you just giggle.
Like we're doing now, yeah.
Has anyone heard like a Muslim response to this before? Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, sure, many.
What did they usually say, if you don't?
Just as I told you now, there are different. Okay, it depends on the level of Muslim. It depends on how deluded they are. So you have the highly deluded ones, which will tell you this, that yes, there is in fact this reproductive liquid of females. But then on the other hand, you will say, no, this is more allegoric, and yes, there is a release of some liquid with some women. Not everyone has it. And this is true, because you get this so-called squirting. And this is not something that every woman has. And this is why they say, well, it happens sometimes and it doesn't happen all the time. And this is why you need to have this randomization factor, which is orgasm. And it's true sometimes like this, sometimes like this. I would tend to say that more men actually climax than women. But then I'm not Dr. Kinsey. I do not know. This is just my instinct that I would say. But I don't know. Maybe Arabs were really super lovers and maybe it really was 50-50.
Yeah, but I would say that nobody, I think, is hesitating when it comes to, does women actually have liquid? The question here is that this liquid will be determined if the child will resemble that parent, which is a very different point.
Look at Greek medicine. I mean, they actually thought that the testicles were weights which were putting on the vocal cords to make your voice lower, because when the testicles appear or grow, that's when the voice goes. That's when your voice breaks. So they had this idea. And this is where you get these things from, that because the Greeks thought that the sperm is being produced in the brain, then goes down, then goes into the kidneys, and then it comes as a homunculus out of the sperm. And that is the way that they figured it out, that the woman was not really necessary. She was just the incubator. And this is exactly what you see in the Quran.
Yeah, I definitely understand where it comes from. But when I discuss with Muslims, I would want them to match this to what we know today and how they would respond to that. So I wouldn't give them a leeway. I would ask them, how do you respond to this? If man actually comes first, do you actually think that we'll have a boy? Or if a woman comes first, do you actually think that we have a woman? That would be the question. So I wouldn't give them a way out. Actually, I would hold them responsible like they would be an intellectual, honest person, and let's see what they actually say.
Yes. So this is why I say there are different levels of delusion. So you can get somebody saying, well, yes, that is the way that it is. And some will say, well, there's a possibility that it could be like that.
Yeah. Do we have our liberal Muslim here who would maybe give us a chance or your point of view?
Liberal Muslim, what, me?
Yes.
Oh no, I thought you meant Saracen. But no. To be honest, no. This is like I've never seen this before, and it's quite strange. So I don't know. I don't really have a response to it or a defense for it, to be honest.
And what is your reaction?
It's a bit. I mean, it's strange. Like seeing that, like whoever comes first, it will determine the gender of the child, or resemble the parent. But I'm not sure. But like, I don't know. I generally can't say anything to this.
But does it make sense to you?
The hadith?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so I think you can see exactly the range of responses that you will get. Exactly.
Yeah.
Rob, if I'm allowed to comment on one more thing before I leave the mic.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry,
So you spoke about embryology, and one thing that I know for sure is that I'll just show it like this. Can you guys see it? Yeah. All right. So you have bones, flesh, skin, brain. Everything is developing at the same time. It's not one thing first, and then it's not stages. So I'm not sure if you guys actually raised this one. This is Sahih Bukhari, volume 8, 77, 593, describing how embryology actually happens. And the Quran shows us what happens, and the Hadith gives us the details. That is the idea, right? And what we see here is in the womb, the first 40 days, you will be in the womb. And then it's going to give us the next step. You'll be a clot for 40 days. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
And then you be flesh for 40 days. This is not true. It all happens at the same time.
Yes. Stops was mentioning that earlier on because there was this interaction with Muslims where P.Z. Myers explained that, and then they wanted to claim no, that's still true as well. So everything is true.
That's all I have to say.
Sorry, can I add on that as well? Can I add on that for a second?
Perfect.
In the Quran, when it says, does it say that bones come first and then the flesh comes? Is that what it says?
It says you're in the womb first for 40 days?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But then do you remember when, I think it was Adnan again, he said that there's a word called thumma, and it can mean simultaneously or something. Like, so he says it can either mean like both meanings. It can either mean that it's all happening at the same time, or like it says how it is, however it's translated. So, like, how do you?
It's either sequential or all at the same time, which is a contradiction.
Right.
Because Stops has gone over this in the video as well, I'm sure.
Mm.
Stops, what's your? Are you there?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, what it says is in chapter 23, for example, it says, we have created man from an extract of clay. Okay, does that make sense? No, because if you go to chapter 40, in sentence 67, it says, he is the one who created you from dust. Okay, how does that work? Now, in chapter 23:13, it says, then we made him a drop in a firm resting place. Now, that doesn't make any sense. So you need to interpret every single word here. And then in sentence 14, it says, then we turned the sperm drop, I don't know where they get the sperm drop because of the nutfa, into a clot. Then we turned the clot into a small lump of flesh. Then we turned the small lump of flesh into bones. And then we closed the bones with flesh. So if you do it simultaneously, then you have the bones and the bones being clothed with flesh at the same time. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. And the best example, and I've given the diagram in the video from the no clash response, is, for example, a limb bud for your hands, because your hands develop with everything together, and then to form the fingers, it's not that the bones grow and the flesh around it or something. No, it's a bud, and then the flesh in between your fingers dies. So it's the exact opposite of what the Quran says.
There you go. Again, another reason not to claim scientific miracles.
I mean, it's the same thing with the with male and female. I mean, they've taken this from the Bible, obviously, and they say, well, we have what do you call it, the man being created, and then the woman created after that. And in the Quran, it only talks about the spiritual side, but then in the Hadith, it says, well, yes, it's first Adam and then Eve or Hawa, but that's not actually the case, because in reality, it's the female form that is the null hypothesis, if you want to call that, the ground form, and then the male develops from out of the female. In other words, you have these SRY genes, SRY hormones, and if they don't fire, if they don't trigger this development, this male, it has a Y chromosome, will stay the shape of a woman. And most of all, these girls, they will not notice this until, at the age of puberty, they should be getting a period, and they can't because they have a Y chromosome, but they don't have a womb. So it didn't develop any female organs, and it didn't develop any male organs either. Outside, they will look like females, but they have a Y chromosome, and this happens.
What's it called? Is there a name for that?
There is a name for that, but I do not remember.
Okay.
But it does happen. It's a Y. It's called a Y female.
Okay.
But there is a specific medical term for this, but I don't remember this.
I want to bring up something as well. It's on a related note, and Stops, you probably know this because you've gone through every basic apologetic there is probably. But this was an interesting one that I hadn't come across, and again, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on it. And this is the claim and the challenge in the Quran. So I'm going to present this here. And this is the Quran's error, Surah 482. If the Quran had been from other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. And what the basic premise is, I'll just read through it and it'll become clear in a moment. Surah 482 would be found in the average Islamophile's list of favorite verses. It's often quoted in the form of a challenge to skeptics and others. And here it is in the various forms here, and it's basically, all very similar. And utilizing this verse, the Muslim apologist will demand reasonable individuals to show an error in the Quran. They will also state with exuding confidence that no one in 14 centuries have been able to show an error in the Quran. Such a conversation usually unfolds in two ways. One, the skeptic ignores the apologist, or two, skeptic shows some of the errors in the Quran: creation from blood clots, setting of the sun in a muddy spring, seminal fluid from the back, flat earth, denial of human evolution, etc. Whenever number 2 occurs, the apologist will usually dismiss any evidence and can be seen asserting his literary liberty to interpret the sentence however he wishes. Given the spectacular vagueness of much of the Quran statements, the conversation will almost always reach an impasse, with either side rejecting the other's interpretation. However, it seems to be the case that neither the apologist nor the skeptic has reflected carefully on the challenge itself. The great irony of the Quran is that the very verse that issues this challenge also meets the challenge, i.e. Surah 482 is an error on its own since it constructs a false conditional statement. So let's see what that means, because that might sound a little bit technical. I don't want to make it too big, as long as it can fit. The verse states that if the Quran was from a source other than Allah, it would contain many errors or contradictions. Now consider this question. Is it possible for a man-made work to contain no errors or contradictions? This should be uncontroversial. There are countless human texts that would be free of any errors, specifically falsifiable or findable errors. Then if it is the case that it is possible for man-made works to be free of any errors, then it is also possible for the Quran to contain no errors and be man-made, i.e. from a source other than Allah. Given the above possibility, Surah 482 constructs a false conditional, which is easily possible for the Quran to be from other than Allah and yet contains no errors. Thus, Surah 482 is an erroneous statement. Now, if that all sounds on a first reading, do you know this one, Stops?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's lovely. I mean, this is logics. This goes, I mean, I've already made a note. This is going straight into my logic series. This is nice.
Here he is. I'll pop the thing on there for you in a moment as well. I'll put it into the chat and so forth. And so basically what it's saying is that, you know, if it contained no errors, then it would have to have been from Allah. But clearly there are human literary works that contain no errors. And so just in and of itself, it's a false conditional. So that I thought this was interesting because I had not come across that before. Yeah. And then further down here, without getting too technical, I won't go through this, but I will post this for those who are interested in it. In logic, certain statements are called conditional statements when it consists of a relationship between two or more atomic statements, where one is the antecedent, the other is the consequent. They're usually denoted as if and then statements. And I won't go into this because this does get a little bit more technical here, but I will post the link. So this will be, you know, I think this is, again, an interesting one that would take some time. You know, when somebody first, you know, when a Muslim first tells you this, you're not probably of the mind to go, hang on a moment, that statement doesn't sound right. You'd have to deconstruct it as it's been done here. So I do think that was an interesting one as something extra. So I will post the link there for people.
Nice one. Excellent.
This one is quite simple to actually respond to. There's several clear errors in the Quran. You know, one of the things should be, you know, the satanic verses that Muhammad, maybe you guys have heard about it, when Muhammad actually, when he was in Mecca, when he was in a weak position, he spoke to the people in Mecca. The non-Muslims said basically the intervention of your prayers to your God is all good. And then basically they celebrated Muhammad for actually including their gods. And then later Muhammad the angel Gabriel came and corrected him. That's one. The second thing is, you probably ever heard about this breastfeeding adults, that the Hadith explains. The Hadith, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, the Sirah explains that there should be 2 verses in the Quran that we cannot find today. May I elaborate on this one?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who have never seen it, it's Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. I'll show this one. You guys can probably see this. Yeah. Sahih Muslims, book 8. Hadith 3421, saying basically that it's revealed in the Quran, meaning it was Allah revealing this, and it was about Muhammad had a theory that, you know, to make a man not attracted to a woman, he could become her spiritual son by basically allowing breast suckling. So that would make him less attracted to the woman. And he first said that he has to suckle a woman 10 times, and then it was abrogated by 5 times. But what's interesting here is that when Muhammad died, it was still recited and found in the Quran.
Yeah.
So this one is not found in the Quran today. You can look. It should be 2 verses, 10 clear suckling and 5 clear suckling.
Neither one of them is there. Yeah.
By the way, regarding abrogation, who actually decides like such which verse is meant to be abrogated? Is it like Muhammad himself, or is it like scholars?
Only Allah.
Okay, right.
And
Yeah,
you
but-
have to look in the
but
Sirah
Allah
to find the
doesn't.
timeline.
Yeah, but he doesn't. So it's actually scholars at the end of the day.
Mm.
Yes, they will interpret
They
whatever.
confirm, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the timeline, which is not found in the Hadith, neither in the Quran. It's only found in the Sirah. But this one
Any
should be
Sirah.
found. Even if it's abrogated, you don't leave it. There is a tafsir by Ibn Abbas saying that you don't delete any tafsir, any Quranic verse that Allah revealed. You leave it there, but it's abrogated.
Yeah, but there's a couple of these. I mean, look at the stoning verse. It's also said that it existed, and it
That's
doesn't.
another one. You're right. But you don't. You should leave it there. You don't delete it.
Exactly. And, it's
And
not
for those who
there.
have never seen, I can show it. But yeah, this is the point.
Are you talking about for example, the punishment for I think certain things that used to be lashing, but then it's now stoning? Is that what you're on about?
This one was about breast feeding 5 times, 10 times, and Stop said, was it stoning, right?
Stoning,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. But the main point is that you don't erase anyone. I can show it for those who have never seen it. It's Quran 2 verse 106, saying that you don't erase. Can you guys see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, it says like this. Ibn Abbas, that's the cousin of Muhammad. Muhammad basically made a special dua for him. Let me see, erase. We did not erase a verse that we acted on before. There it is. You let it stay there.
But you just abrogate it. Yeah.
It's not implemented, but you still you let it stay there.
Okay, but now the question is, why would a God do that? Wouldn't a God know that this is not going to be for all eternity, and not even issue it and go and issue a better one right from the word go?
Well, yes, you would think that. Or just playing devil's advocate, a Muslim could argue that the verses were abrogated or updated based on the scenario. I mean, that's obviously a weak argument, but somebody could make that and pat themselves on the back and go, "Hey, this verse was revealed at this time because it was relevant at that moment, and then a new verse came along which was relevant at a later moment." And God's all knowing, and what's the famous words that they always say? Something about Allah. There's a sentence. Allah knows best. There we go. Allah knows best. So, they could argue that and then pat themselves on the back and feel quite confident that they've answered the question.
Except that Allah is in control of all events.
Yes, but as you quite rightly point out, Stops, if he knew this was going to happen, then why not, when he first did it, say, "Hey, I'm giving you this verse for this period of time, but in exactly 3 years and 45 days time, at 12 noon, I will present you with a new verse because this one will be for a new time." And I would have gone, "That's interesting," and it exactly happened, because that brings us on. Well, we may talk about it later, but the precision of these so-called and Zoe mentioned as well, predictions. I only need one word and it covers everything. Precision is what I'm looking for. And the less precise it is, the less I'm going to even look at it seriously. 3 to 9 years is so imprecise, it's just ridiculous. If God had said something where he told me the day, the hour, the number of people involved, exactly when it was going to happen, you would have my attention, because that would be pretty miraculous or a pretty strong prediction. But as it is, these things are so vague, as is many of these verses, that you can read into it whatever you want. But it does baffle me that Muslims go, "Look how accurate this is," and you're going, "Holy crap!" You obviously got a very, very low bar for Allah, who's supposed to be super accurate. I mean, he could tell you down to the microsecond, realizing that we would understand atomic clocks in the future down to the millisecond, nanosecond, even if we didn't go that far. Presumably he's got the capability to do this since we've discovered it, 1400 years later. But it's so vague that it's no better than Nostradamus, and probably a lot worse. And of course, they wouldn't accept anything from Nostradamus.
Isn't this God all powerful?
Well, he's maximally powerful, because all powerful is all powerful.
So what stops him from issuing a new Quran every single day, updated to the millisecond, updated in every single language that we have, giving us all the details that we need for our guidance to get on the straight path back to heaven. I mean, come on. Is it that difficult for a God
Well, there you
maximally
go.
powerful? No.
Correct. Yeah, agreed. And that again goes against the claim that the Quran is clear and unambiguous and contains everything that one needs to know. Now, not every Muslim uses those words, but I've encountered a number of Muslims who claim that it's clear and contains all the information that one requires. And then obviously when you delve a bit deeper, they sort of step back from that and say, hey, it contains everything you need to worship Allah. Well, that's obviously not everything that you require in your entire life to be a Muslim. So it just means one's got to examine the claims a bit more carefully.
And without a doubt.
Yes. But I want to get on now, and obviously we can come back to this, but I do want to raise it again because it came up in Speaker's Corner and, obviously Jamie did a great job of it. But we're going to go back to this again because from my point of view, I don't know whether Stops you agree and whether, obviously, Zoe, you might not, and I'll be interested to your view, Zoe. But this inheritance mathematical fractions is a knockdown argument against the claim that the Quran has no errors. And as I pointed out in the opening when we got started with the show, I brought up the comment that Paul, because Paul talked to Jamie and obviously Adnan did an incredibly poor job of talking complete bollocks the whole time, because they really, either they can't do maths, and on the first reading it's not that easy to realize that you've got to sort of take it, and work it out yourself. But really, once you understand what it says, there's no way around this. Now, I wanted to bring up, because there's different interpretations, let's put it that way, or corrections that are made, and I certainly wanted to get everybody's opinion on this. And here was the one that Paul Williams brought, claiming that he thought this was good enough. He wasn't going to investigate it potentially, but this was good enough for him. I don't know who this fellow is. It's just some link that Paul gave me, so I went to have a look at it. So this is the inheritance law by this Anza al-Adli, something like that. Obviously talks about it here. So he's answering the inheritance law, and the allegation goes that it doesn't add up. So that's basically what he says over here. Although he does add some extra fractions in here, which again Stops you can talk about. I haven't looked into those ones. I just know that the main one, and then so this is him. What's in purple here is the allegation. So he's now putting forward what he's heard, this fella, and here he's presenting the verses themselves, whichever. He doesn't say which translation this is, but there are the three verses: 4:11, 4:12, and 4:176, as Stops has mentioned before on a number of occasions. And basically, here he goes. So the first major point to note is that there are two types of inheritors. The first category are those who have received a fixed inheritance, which includes the spouse and the parents. It includes those who take their share after the shares of the first category are distributed. That includes the siblings and the children. So if we understand this, we know that the parents and the wife would receive their amount. The daughters would get a share of what remains. This explanation on its own solves the problem. And then he goes into this. So my question to you, Stops, or to any Muslim, is where in the Quran does it say that the daughters get a share of what remains?
No, it doesn't. There's no mention of this whatsoever.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
And even if it did, it would still then be wrong, because either this God says you get so and so gets X, or it doesn't. So if you don't have, just look at it. If you don't have the parents and you don't have the wife and the daughters, but you have a different constellation, what happens if everybody is from the second tier? You have the same problem again. So all you are doing is you're just shifting this one level down to a different area. So what is the point? Because he's saying, well, there are two types of inheritors. Of course, yes, but this is like the cheating software that the Germans from Audi and Volkswagen put into their cars, because they said, well, as soon as we recognize that we are on a tester, we will change things. And this is what he's doing. He is making the assumption that there is always going to be a parent and a wife and daughters, because everybody is using these examples because that's where they start. But if you don't have them, then you only have the second tier, and then what happens, or second category, the same thing happens again. So what the hell is your problem?
Okay, well, let's see, because he does go into a little bit more about this. So obviously he talks about the third and so forth, and for the daughters, 2/3 of what remains. Okay, nowhere in the Quran does it say 2/3 of what remains. That's his interpretation as far as we can tell. And even if the tafsirs say that, that's of no consequence, because it doesn't say it in the Quran. So somebody is now interpreting this in order to make it add up to the correct amount. So basically he says, after understanding this, it became clear that the allegation is based on ignorance of the fact that siblings and children get what's remaining wealth after the parents. Well, again, and here's it interesting. The Islamic rulings come from both the Quran and the Sunnah. Exactly. And of course, nowhere does he give that, because where are these rulings? And so what if they're rulings? That's not what the Quran says. So where are you saying that it comes from the Quran? He doesn't actually mention this anywhere. I'll post this link as well for people in a moment. And now he wants to address the specific claims. Now let us address the specific claims. The first claim is that 2/3 daughters plus 1/3 parents plus an 1/8 wife will add up to more than available. But the truth is that the Quran does not specify what the parents and the wife will receive if there are 3 daughters. Listen to this now. Yeah, listen to this, but the Quran states that the parents get 1/6 each if the deceased left a child, and the wife gets 1/8 if the deceased left a child. Both times it's the singular, but in the proposed scenario, there are 3 daughters, not 1. So stop. I know when you're laughing there. When you finish laughing, can you explain this, please? You will do a better job than me.
You can't have the weather forecast saying tomorrow we will have sunshine and then it will rain, because there's only one. The word weather is singular, so you can't have 2 weathers, and you can't have rain and sun, and then it doesn't work. So you can only have rain or sunshine. This is the way that it's arguing.
Okay. If I'm understanding you and I put it another way, he's claiming because there's the word left as a child, the fact that means that because if there's more than 1 child, this does not apply. This only applies if there's a single child. But if you read it, that's not what it's saying. It's just explaining what happens if there's deceased. So he's misusing the word child here.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because here he says, rather ironically, some confusion may have caused this misunderstanding because some translation the word walid, child, is mistranslated as children. In most translations like Pickthall, Ansad, etc., the word has been correctly translated in the singular form. And so, this is sort of sophistry, obscurantism.
I will drink some
Correct.
milk. Does not say that how many milk molecules I will imbibe. There are general terms. I wonder if he does the same thing when it comes to the stomach of the cows when the milk gets there, because there is also a general term. But then this would be, you need to look at the consequences. If you do this here, then you need to do this with the bees, you need to do this with the cows, and then you have just generated 2 mistakes with the bees and the cows.
Yes. Now, the second and third parts, he goes into some other claims here, which we haven't gone into. I mean, again, it stops you can read it. It's just sort of different versions of this, which is kind of from the main claim. It's a bit of a red herring. And then he goes on with a bit more of it. I'll post it here. And then he talks about financial obligations and why men get more, which is a complete red herring. That's got nothing to do with the main topic. But again, it's a case of...
Just pause there. You've got go a little bit down, because this is the interesting part, I think, because look what he says about Zakir Naik. And this is now what I find so disgusting with this whole thing. They actually go and they apologize and they justify the ruling that a woman gets half, because Zakir Naik says in Islam, a woman has no financial obligation, and the economical responsibility lies on the shoulders of the man. This is how sick Islam is. This is where I get disgusted when I see people like this Dr. Zakir Naik saying things like that. And I think, How dare he say things like that? How dare he denigrate 50% of the world's population and tell them, well, Chuck you, Farley, you have no obligation. The man is the boss and you are the incubator. I hate it. It's so terrible. Before a woman is married, it is the duty to look after the lodging, boarding, clothing, and other financial requirements. And then it is the duty of the husband or the son. So the woman only gets her personality through the husband. And that's sick. That's really filthy.
And even apart from that, of course, there would have been families where the woman is the sole provider, right? Everybody else has died off, the men are not there. What happens in that case? So, this is just a general rule, but there's many exceptions that can be brought to it. But again, going back to this whole thing, if we go back to the top, that's got nothing to do with the inheritance law that we are talking about, which is specifically the fractional errors in the Quran. So the fact that he gets half, double what she gets, etc., while, as you say, that's hugely problematic, that's got nothing to do with this. So it's a complete red herring. And I want to point that out to viewers. Often some apologists will go into other topics to deflect, to disguise, to throw you off the track because, if you watch the video with Adnan trying to do that with Jamie, I mean, that was, if anybody watches that, even a Muslim watches that and they go away and say Adnan has brought up any point, I think, just don't waste my time, So, but this is a common tactic that's used is, hey, we all bring in these red herrings, we'll bring in extra things that have got nothing to do with the specific topic that we're talking about in the hopes that we can confuse and push the conversation in a different direction. So I just wanted to bring that up because Paul specifically linked to that, and that was one particular thing. But Stops, can you just remind everybody, because obviously you dealt with it, what Hijab said in his response video, because you did a response video to his.
But that's stupid. He just said, if you have an oversubscription, you just go and adjust it according to the proportions. So what you do is you keep the proportionality of the individual portions of the inheritance, and all's good. So what happens is that if the daughter should get 2/3, i.e. 16/24, they don't get 16/24 anymore, they get 16/27. And all is hunky-dory because all the others get adjusted accordingly, and then everybody gets the same proportion of the inheritance as is stipulated in the Quran. The problem with this is that he's messing with the words of the Quran and the wishes of his creator. Because his creator, and come on, you don't mess around with this guy. If this God says, listen, I don't want you to eat pork, you don't bloody well eat pork. You're going to be really badly punished. And if he says the daughters get 2/3, the 3 daughters, then I would not go and argue with this God that maybe they shouldn't get 2/3, they should only get 16/27. I would not risk that. If he's going to risk that, go ahead. I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, essentially, just to make it simple, I mean, that's changing what the Quran says. And the only question I would be asking him or this guy or Paul or anybody else who wants to make other claims is that what it says in the Quran? And clearly, that's not what it says in the Quran because the readings are clear. We can bring up the verses again. The readings are extremely clear. So you are now changing the verses. And it's all very well to say that Muhammad and the scholars have looked into this and they've answered it. What they have done in order to answer it is to change the proportions or the fractions in order to make it equal to 1. And this there's no escaping this. And I find it baffling and disappointing and perhaps not unexpected that people like Paul and Hijab and others go, oh, these are minor. Nobody really brings this up as a complaint. Well, either because people don't know about it or because you guys just won't answer it. It's a knockdown argument. Not everything's a knockdown argument. I mean, that they can respond in various ways and walk away and pat themselves on the back. They haven't got a way, in my opinion, if they're intellectually honest, to respond to this particular claim. And so, hats off to Jamie. I will continue using it. Any Muslim who comes to me claiming that the Quran has got no errors, this is the first one I'm going to bring up, and you're going to have to tap dance your way around this. And I'm just going to keep totting up all the different responses so that we can just answer them as they come up, because I'm sure, we've heard 2 now. I'm sure there's other ones out there as well. So,
and the other one, which actually I'm a little bit hesitant because nobody ever mentions it, and to me it sounds weird that I should be the only one who has noticed this, is this glaring contradiction of the sister. And this is why I'm actually hesitant to bring this up. And I wish somebody would tell me whether I am right or wrong. But everybody's tap dancing around, or nobody so far has been able to give me a definitive answer, whether in 412, where it says that the sister, okay, gets 1/6. And in 1676, it says that the sister gets a half.
Is it possible, Stops? I haven't, I'm not got them in front of me at the moment, but is it possible that those are under different circumstances? Or if
Well, I
they're
looked
not,
at the circumstances and I can't see that they are different.
okay. I mean, if you want to bring it up, we could look at it together and see if we can see something there. And I'll look at it with a critical eye as best I can from a Muslim point of view to see if we can. And Zoe, if you're listening, or the liberal guy as well, let's look at this and see whether, in fact, it's something that, if Stops can bring it up, if we can just look at this and see whether we can tell if it is a different scenario. Because obviously, if the scenario is different, then, you know, that objection falls away. If the scenario appears to be the same, then the objection stands, it seems to be. So I don't know if, or I can bring it up if you like.
And what I'm doing now is I'm just taking away all the stuff that is irrelevant.
Oh, okay.
And then I just need to modify the 412. Here we go. Just give me 30 seconds.
Okay. In the meantime, liberal guy or Zoe, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I know. I just want to say, can we come to prophecy after as well, if you don't mind?
Yes, if we've got the time, yeah, we can definitely do that. So your thoughts, Zoe? I mean, obviously, again, you've not come on here to defend any of these things, but just your initial thoughts with the inheritance. I mean, you might need to look into it more. I appreciate that. If you haven't, you want to read it yourself. But I think, you know, for myself and Stops and a few other people, we've got a very high level of certainty that this is a knockdown error in the Quran. And I certainly wouldn't want to bring something up where it's easy to dismiss. I mean, that's not my modus operandi. But if I think there's a strong argument to be made that this is an error, then I'm going to point that out. So I don't know. Have you got any comments on this from what you've heard?
Again, this is like the first time I've actually ever heard this. So if you can simplify it, for me, so you're saying that the inheritance value for everyone, it doesn't add up to one whole number, one.
Yeah, it adds up to more than one. So 1 1/8 or 112.5%. So in certain scenarios, and if you bring up an Islamic calculator, which we can do online here as well, you will immediately see that even the Islamic calculators show you that it exceeds 100%. I will bring it up for you on screen here and actually show you, so that you can inheritance.
And you're saying that they're trying to add it to one through their own interpretations. That's not actually in the Quran, basically.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And,
okay, here you go. Can you see this?
Oh, yes. Let me bring the screen back up there. Oh, it stops. I've put it online. Yep.
So if you take 412, it says if a man or woman have no heir direct, and there's no children or something, but have a brother or a sister, to each of the two a sixth. Okay, so if a man or a woman dies, so let's say a man dies, has no heirs, but has a sister, she gets a sixth. Is that correct?
Sorry, let me bring it up. If a man or woman has no direct heir, i.e. children or parents, but have a brother or a sister, to each of the two a sixth. Okay, so that's a sixth if there's no direct heir. Okay, cool.
Okay, so if you go into 4176 now, if a man perishes having no children, so like above, it's a man, no children, no direct heirs, but he has a sister, like in 12, she shall receive a half of what he leaves.
Okay, so if a man has no direct heir, if he perishes having no children, yeah, you see, yes, it seems to be, although I guess the Muslim would argue, hang on a moment, it doesn't talk about parents. It only talks about not having any children.
What?
Because remember in the top one there, it says if he has no direct heir. In the second one, it's saying, and this is the argument they would make, and again, most Muslims who are listening, I won't say most, some Muslims who are listening will not see the nuance of this. In the top one in 412, it's saying he has no direct heir, which is children or parents.
No. The IE is just an explanation as example.
Yes, yeah, I know. But no direct heir, And in the second one, in 176, they will say, and obviously, you can respond, I can see a Muslim saying that in 176, they're only talking about having no children. They're not talking about having no direct heir. In other words, they could have parents in that case. It's not talking about, it's not bringing up the parents. It's only talking about children. So they could argue that it's a different scenario. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying they could argue that. And it would take some nuance to explain that it's not the case.
Okay, now I'm slow. I don't understand. If a man has no direct heirs, if a man perishes having no children, what is the difference?
Okay, stop there. Okay, so stop at the top one. The first one says no direct heirs. And an heir would be children or parents, correct?
No, it just says heir direct. The children and parents are not mentioned.
Yeah, but what is an heir direct? It is children or parents, correct? I mean, that's why it's saying, i.e. children or parents.
Okay, if a man has no direct heirs, that's what it says in the Quran.
Yeah,
because
correct.
children or parents is not mentioned. So if a man has no direct heirs, what is the difference between if a man has no direct heirs and if a man has no children?
Okay, I'm agreeing with you. All I'm saying is that a Muslim could make the argument that the second one doesn't refer to all direct heirs. It's only talking about children. And in fact, direct heirs would also include or could also include parents. And so what they can try and spin this is to say, hey, it's a different scenario in 176.
Now I am understanding, because direct heirs is not the same as children, because children is more specific than heirs, which is one level above children.
Correct. Now, it doesn't say that anywhere in there, but they could try and make the argument, and for people who are not going to pay close attention, that would seem to them that it's a different scenario. So
if a man has parents, then the sister gets a half.
Correct.
And if he doesn't have parents, she gets a sixth.
But now, I mean, we'd have to look at that and see whether that still adds up correctly, given the other verses as well. So again, one would have to just check that. I haven't done that.
No, never. You never get this to add up. I mean, you have to be incredibly diligent before you can make any of this add up. So if you have now the sixth, because if he has parents, they also get a sixth each, which is 2 6. So if she gets half, they get a third. So that is possible. But as soon as you add anybody else in it, you have the same problem again.
Yeah, but they would also say that
it's possible. Yes, it is possible, because they get a third. So if a sister gets a half and the parents get a third, yep, you're good to go.
Yeah, so I can see your nuance as well. You could well have a point there, but I think it's very easy for them to spin it as two separate scenarios with confidence, where obviously that confidence, as far as I can tell, is not warranted, but they could just easily dismiss that. Whereas the first case, there's no way around it. There's no tap dancing around that one.
Yeah, okay, I understand now. Yeah.
Cool, but it could still well, as I say, it could still well be that you've got a good point there, but it's just much more nuanced that I think can be bulldozed over a little too easily, potentially. But you'd have to test it out on some Muslims and see what they say.
I have, and they don't understand it.
Okay.
They don't want to, because they can see that there's obviously a contradiction here, and they will say, well, it says that you can't have children, therefore it's a different scenario. They don't see that it's the same scenario, no heirs, no children. This is very similar. So you still have the contradiction. I mean, would I, if I were a god, avoid such a situation? Absolutely. I would make it very clear. I mean,
yes,
I would
exactly.
never go and put myself into such a mess, obviously.
I'm going to show this now, especially for Zoe and for those who haven't seen it. So here, and I've posted it into the chat here is the Islamic inheritance calculator.
One of them.
So
there's
one of
a
them.
couple of
This is amazing.
Yeah, there's tons of them here. So if we put these numbers in, which one is it? Not husband, obviously. What am I doing? It's okay, so we've got one wife, obviously. Well, you could have more, but one wife, 3 daughters, one father, one mother. This is entirely plausible, by the way. This is normal. And then we go calculate inheritance. And here we see at the bottom Total shares have exceeded 100%. Shares need to be reduced proportionally. See Rule 18. So we go to Rule 18. By the way, here is the percentages as well. You can see them all here. And this is available for you to go do. And then we go down to Rule 18 according to this particular one. And here it says, in the awal case where the total is more than 1, all shares should be reduced proportionally so that the total shares is 1. In the case of awal and in the presence of grandfather, sisters will be removed from the 2/3 zone. Grandfather and sisters then will divide the ratio 2-1. And in brackets, disturbing case, which I thought was amusing. It certainly is a disturbing case. It's a disturbing case of bad mathematics that needs to be corrected. So I'm entirely in agreement with that disturbing case. So there you go. That, I think, is such a strong argument for me. Obviously, you will get people like Adnan and other makeups, you need to watch the video just to be poor that argument was. I would be quite happy if somebody said, you know what, I have to go and look this up. I don't think they're going to come up with anything that's going to counter this, but at least that would be honest to go, do you know what, I have to go look this up. That's fine. But to stand there and claim, as Adnan did, because we can talk about that now, that Jamie hadn't read enough tafsirs and Jamie isn't a scholar, as a way to discredit the claim, is so incredibly dishonest and pitiful, really, and shouting loudly there. And I've got my own video, but you see some of it on one of the Dawah channels, and then walking away as if they've answered the question, and now he's got something else. I mean, this to me is like infantile psychology, and I don't know how people take it seriously, but obviously some people are brainwashed enough to take it seriously. So that's my little rant.
Because the mathematics in Arabic are different than the mathematics in English. You need to remember this.
Yes. I'd love to know what the mathematical rules are in Arabic then. Perhaps somebody can enlighten us. If they're different from, the universal mathematical rules around everywhere else in the planet, then I'd be interested to know that. Maybe one has to learn different maths. So there we go. So I think, it would be worth you reading that because, if you are going to engage in discussions at some point, the more we highlight this, the more other people are going to bring this up as well. It would behoove you, I think, to have some kind of a response. And I think anything where it's a case of scholars or Muhammad or anybody is changing what it says in the Quran, you're always going to be in trouble. So maybe it's something for you to go and speak to other people, see if you can come up with something. But I think I do not see any coherent, reasonable, rational response to this other than to claim that it is, in fact, a numerical error under certain circumstances.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring it up in the park probably sometime with someone. But have you tried speaking to someone about this, one of the names at the park?
I haven't yet that I can remember. Have I? I don't think so. But obviously Jamie did, and you might have seen the videos and the response there. Jamie did it twice. He did it with Paul and he did it with Adnan. With Adnan, right. he just red herrings. He just went fishing. He must have had like a fishing net with him because all he threw out was red herrings. He never addressed it at all. He tried to throw up all kinds of red herrings about whether Jamie hadn't looked into enough tafsirs, etc., and it was pitiful. And then Paul, admittedly in the beginning, said, "Oh, I've never heard of this. So I've got to go and look this up." And then kind of started to, unfortunately, backtrack in the sense, "I'm sure there's no answer. I don't hear this, so it can't be very strong." The fact that he hasn't heard it in his mind, seemingly to him, meant that it's not a usual apologetic, and if it's not a usual apologetic, it's probably easily answered. So there's a lot of assumptions on Paul's part. And then, as I said, and you might have seen at the beginning, I screenshotted some of the Twitter conversation, and Paul felt that the link that I produced earlier on with that Anwar fella was a possible solution, and he suggested that he's not going to investigate any further. And as long as there's a possible solution, that's good enough for him. He feels like it's been answered. And obviously, to me, that is a prime case of not being critically thinking and skeptical of the claims that are being made. But maybe Jamie will catch him again at some point, and they can have that conversation. I mean, if I did that, I would point out the uncritical nature and the lack of skepticism there on Paul's part. But that's just me.
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone has an answer to it, I mean, they would happily discuss it without any, issues at all. So obviously,
yeah, I mean, I think it's clear. the first one, not stops the second one, although that could work as well potentially. But I think it's just, it can be bulldozed over with somebody just not wanting to go into the nuance of it. The first one is very clear that, and even the Islamic calculators show it. So there's no way around this, in the sense that that's what the Quran says. And the only coherent response is to somehow make the portions less, or as this particular writer said, try to reword child, meaning that it only applies as one child, whereas in fact, the meaning of that is clear. Just whether you have a child, it doesn't say child or children, but it says child, and that's just a generic term, but they're trying to make it sound as if it's a specific term. And this is the sort of word games, the semantics that we, and I'm sure Stops is far more used to, is changing things to try and make it fit. The problem I notice is that some Muslims, I'm not going to include you necessarily, they have a worldview, and they've got a very high bar. They've set the bar high themselves on purpose to show how wonderful Islam and the Quran are. And now they've got to do everything in their power to keep that high bar. Where there's problems or there's contradictions or whatever the case is, now they've got to do incredible acrobatics to try and keep it consistent. And that, of course, is a big failing for them. That's certainly what I notice anyway.
Yes, because the daughter's name was Janet, and it doesn't say Janet in the Quran, so you can't apply this. Oops, that was too much.
So there we go. Is there any questions from you guys, or if you're watching us, is there any questions in the chat based on anything that we've said? Oh, and you wanted to bring up prophecy, didn't you? Predictions or prophecy?
Yeah,
which
I wanted
one was
to get into that topic. Yeah.
Okay.
I've only got 6 with me, so no, it won't be that long.
That could be long. Start with whichever one you think is the best one from your point of view, and let's hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, like before getting into this subject, I was expecting a lot more because, I've seen viral videos that, a lot of people, they liked and stuff. It was talking about how the Prophet said stuff about, predicting telecommunication through mobile phones and wars specifically. and I actually seen other websites like making, such detailed claims. And I actually went on sunnah.com. So, I'm not going to try and repeat it and get it wrong. So I looked for these things as much as possible. And a lot of these things don't even exist. Like a lot of these prophecies, as if like people, they've literally made it up and attached it to his name to make it look, more detailed, more, I guess, believable. But I guess the best one here, I mean, you mentioned the Roman one, but I'm not going to do that one because, again, it would have been better if location, time, maybe people who were involved could have been mentioned. That would have been more, impressive and stuff. But, to say like within 3 to 9 years, I mean, that's not very specific. So I was a bit disappointed at hearing that. But I guess.
But before we carry on there, Zoe,
yeah.
There's also some other claims in there which Muslims, because in and of itself, you're right, 3 to 9 years isn't precision at all. But then there are a few other claims which again Stops will answer very quickly for you in terms of where it is in the land and the specific location.
Yeah.
And they think adding these extra things in just makes it so much more specific. So maybe you can just quote that and Stops can quickly, just respond to that.
Well, I can quote the Quran verse. I don't know exactly where. I don't know the details about the exact battle, but I know that it took place. I think after 7 years or something. I'm not sure. It was Surah 30. The Byzantines have been defeated in the nearest land, but they, after their defeat, will overcome within 3 to 9 years. To Allah belongs the command before and after, and the day the believers will rejoice. Does he know about this battle that took place? Stops.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I mean, the answer is very simple. When did this happen?
I don't know. I don't know.
But it is said, some say, it happened during the lifetime of Muhammad. So
Right.
what they're saying is it was a prediction because this was revealed 5 years before it happened. So the actual battle only took place 5 years later. Yes, it was still during the lifetime of Muhammad, but we are sure that this was revealed 5 years earlier.
Right, yeah.
This is so stupid. This is so childish. It's amazing.
Another one. Do you know? Have you heard about the story of Pharaoh, the body being preserved?
Yeah, sure.
Oh dear. Yeah.
because they came up, they found a body in Sinai, like salted up, and I think it was supposed to be from the time of Pharaoh. I'm sorry, the time of Moses.
Yes, I mean, what is the prediction? Do we know Moses? No. Do we know whether he existed? No. Do we know when he is supposed to have existed? No. Do we know which Pharaoh this is? No. We have absolutely no information about anything here, and they say this is a prediction.
Right. So it's just speculation they've added again over time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna throw out a last one then. There was a let me find the hadith. Yeah, here we go. So there's a man named Ammar bin Yasir, I think, and he was a companion. And basically, to sum it up, the hadith says that the Prophet said that he would be killed by a rebellious, aggressive group. And this individual, he was killed in the Battle of Siffin. It was when, you know, the incident with Muawiyah and Ali. Like, he didn't obey
He
his...
sent out this tribe to kill him.
Yeah. So he died by this group, by Muawiyah's
Yeah.
soldiers. Yeah. So that's the prediction.
And?
It doesn't mention the name, but, you know, or any location. But...
Somebody was killed sometime, somewhere in the region.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that's troubling me. That's why I was expecting, you know, a lot more, honestly, like, because I never looked into this, like, in detail, but actually going through, you know, sunnah.com and stuff, like, I was a little bit, you know, disappointed. But I don't know, who knows?
Can I respond to the last comment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it's really beautiful that you actually feel comfortable enough to present these things that you have thought about, and that you feel that you're in a room where we can actually respect you. But at least we should answer these things that you bring forth. Have you heard about this concept? Correlation doesn't mean causation.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if something is similar to something else, it doesn't mean it's actually caused by something.
Yeah.
You know, so this is what I would say, you know, someone being killed, like Stop said, you know, it doesn't mean it's being caused by the thing that you're actually claiming. And especially if it's vague.
Yes.
And without, you know, deflecting too much, I have hadith here where Muhammad is saying something very concrete. Very few Muslims have actually seen this prophecy. It's by Sahih Muslim, book 41, 70 to 52.
Oh, yeah.
Muhammad is being asked, when is judgment day coming, you know? When is the last hour coming? And he's saying like this, look at this boy that you have in front of you. This boy won't even grow old until the judgment day will come. So the judgment day should come within Muhammad's lifetime. Have you seen this one before?
I've come across it, but I haven't looked into it properly.
I see, yeah. So this one is very concrete, speaking about the boy in front of him, that, you know, this is something you can measure. You know, how old will this boy be? Probably 70, 80. Who knows? You know, something like that.
Noah was 950.
Sure, but you know, within at least, you know, these standards. I don't know if you actually have anyone within the Muslim scripture that it's older than 60, 70, 80, maybe 90.
I want to also bring in, if I may, just for a moment, little guy, I just want to bring in Why So Religious has finally been able to join us here. So, sorry, I muted you there. Why? Because there was some background noise. So if you want to unmute, just say hi to the group and to the viewers. Just let us know a little bit about yourself and then share your thoughts on what you've heard so far. Why are you there? You just need to unmute yourself. I think you're on your mobile phone, you said. Are you there? All quiet. Okay, well, once you find out if you're listening, if you can hear me, or if you can unmute yourself, you can join in. Sorry, Liberal, carry on then until Y can sort of unmute himself and just share a little bit about who he is. Go ahead.
So the point with this one is that this boy will be alive, and then you'll have Judgment Day. So even the Noah argument would not work because this boy is not alive, and we don't have any signs of him being alive. So the previous speaker, the Muslim guy, do you have any comments on this one?
Yeah, sorry, let me read it out loud. So I can
please, yeah.
So when would the last hour come? Thereupon Allah's messenger kept quiet for a while, then looked at a young boy in his presence belonging to the tribe of Az-Shanua, and he said, if this boy lives, he would not grow very old till the last hour would come to you. Anna said that this young boy was of our age, during those days. So meaning that the boy is meant to be alive right now
Until Judgment Day,
until
basically.
just the last
Yeah.
hour, right? And there's obviously no evidence or signs
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the boy,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
So
so
it's
yeah, go
very
on.
concrete.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, I can't really say much to it because there's no evidence of this boy. So how can I, I can't really defend it.
Yeah, sure, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But then,
yeah.
then I was gonna quickly, I won't read it out, what I was gonna mention, but then there was other ones, for example, how Fatima was gonna be the first one to die after the Prophet dies, and then another vague one saying that you will fight the Turks in the future with small red eyes and red faces. Yeah, which sure happened, but like it's not telling us any details. It's so vague. So
Hello, am I unmuted now?
Yes, there you go. Good evening, Wise Religious. Thanks for
All right,
joining us.
sorry about that.
You managed to get in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some thoughts on what we've been talking about.
All right, so I'm Wise Religious. I have a channel that I've been doing for about a year. I like to cover various religions, but as far as the miracles in the Quran, as they say, I think something that is rarely ever talked about is trying to set the goalpost with Muslims, in the sense that, if their debate is, well, how could a person know such and such before the time of science, such as they use for Muhammad? I guess what you would have to compare it to would be, a lot of people like to say, well, look at Galen or look at Aristotle. But instead, they never say, what about Democritus, who mentioned the atom, the concept of the atom, but would say by Zeus? So are you claiming that Zeus has to be real because you're saying Muhammad said by Allah? Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I never really hear that as the goalpost when people debate Muslims trying to say that there's miracles in the Quran because only Allah could give that divine inspiration. But nobody ever says, well, by Zeus, Democritus was correct. And then the next thing I would like to say, and I'm at work, so I'm trying to push forward really quick here. 67 4, I believe, of the Quran, maybe 65 4. I can't really recall right now. It actually says the same as 855 of the Quran, where it says that sight returns to the human eye. Now, the thing about this is that's not true. And it actually was a Muslim, Al-Hussein, who was one of the first scientists of the time and was a Muslim. And he proved that light actually travels into the eye. And when I've debated Muslims about this concept, at first they would agree that the Quran is completely correct. And then when I point this out to them, they try to debate me on the Arabic. And of course, I don't know Arabic. To me, it's a rather useless language, because if you go to corpus.quran.com, it holds up 7 different Quran interpretations. And I've done videos about jihad, and I'm doing one about slave in the Quran right now. And you get so many different meanings of such words, and it just becomes fabricated. But then once you show them that it really is vision returns, then they call Al-Hussein a hypocrite for going against the Quran, and it will shut them up. But I suggest anybody that has time after this, just check out my video, the Quran Explains Sight. And
So, why? So,
go ahead.
have you got your link that you can post here in either here? Put it into this private chat, or give us the link, and I'll post it for people to go and have a look at your channel as well.
Oh, I appreciate it. I really appreciate that. And what I think is most important, like I was saying about debating people on the concept of the Quran having miracle known by anybody at the time, is they say, in Allah, by Allah, this has to be true. So then use it with Democritus saying, by Zeus, the atom exists. You know, like that's the way I look at it. And
Yes, a good counterexample to what they're saying. Yeah.
okay, well, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry I'm at work and I have to get back to work. I really am grateful for you allowing me on your channel to explain my point of view.
Yeah, no problem. We're welcome to come back again at some point. As I say, just drop us the link before you go if you can. If you're on your phone and you can't see the chat, that's fine. Send it to me on a link and I'll add it in and get people to go and have a look at what you've got to say as well.
All right. I'll send it to your Facebook. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Great stuff.
right.
Thanks so much for
Thank you,
joining
sir.
us. Okay, cheers then.
Bye.
Can somebody
Okay,
find
so
Sophia films for me, because I cannot find them?
no, her channel's been shut down, apparently.
Okay.
Fruitful Discussion joined and has left. He was going to come in and defend embryology, which I thought would be interesting. He and Stops can have I'm sure, a nice conversation there. I just want to see what happened to him. But guys, you carry on in the meantime. I'm just checking what happened to him there. Anything else you want to add in? Go for it.
Is Kenny gonna come debate as well next week?
No, there's not going to be here. Let me just give you a quick update. Nadir Ahmed is still running away, even though he accused atheists of running away from him. I immediately challenged on him. Yeah, he agreed. And then since then, he's been running away because he's scared now. So that doesn't look like it's happening. Kenny is resorting to ranting and raving on Facebook. So he made a video accusing us of lying, and I like the way that he uses ad hominems and like all these fallacies, and obviously he doesn't understand what they are. So what he said is he doesn't want Rob moderating because we are all liars and not to be trusted, and we are all criminals and blah blah. So
okay, but hang on, Stops. I'm not as bad as you apparently, according to you.
I'm the worst. Oh, I don't know why he's so scared of me. I don't know why. Anyway, so he is going to set up some sort of host, maybe on his channel. I don't know. There is some Christian, I think he's Christian, on the Facebook thing, which he trusts more than he trusts Rob. So he is going to be moderating this. I don't know what he thinks is going to happen. I don't know if he thinks that this is going to be like a strict debate or something. There is nothing to debate there. Okay, we're just going to have a chat about this. It's going to take me 4.5 or 4 minute 40 to completely annihilate any claim regarding embryology, and that's the end of the story. And then I don't know, he's going to talk about alaka and nutfa, and that's the end of it. We're just going to have a chat about this.
Well, why does he keep disconnecting? Well, before you go into any further, for Fruitful Discussion, the Muslim that joined us last Friday is attempting to rejoin here, and he said he can talk about embryology. So you'll get a crack at it right now. Stops if we can actually get him in. He seems to be dropping out and dropping in again. He was in for a moment there. So we'll hear some other claims here again. I think, again, it's
Can anybody explain this to me? Why is it that if there were to be some sort of a description of embryology that sort of resembles what we know today, how would that in any way prove or provide evidence or push the indication towards a certain direction that a God exists? I don't understand that.
Well, it's the case that if it was detailed enough that nobody at the time could have known, then that would have been, from certain Muslims' point of view, a miracle. If they didn't know it, like if
yes, we have a miracle. Exactly.
Yeah, but and that would be, in their view, evidence towards it being divinely inspired. If in fact Allah talked about, the germ theory of disease or particles or whatever the case is, and we understand them now.
Exactly, it didn't. So it's only suddenly it's embryology. Okay, so what? Okay, verses 7, 8, 9. Can you ponder on Surah Sajda? Which one is Surah Sajda? Do you want us to work? We're here for fun. I'm not going to look up what Surah Sajda is for human creation. Which one is Surah Sajda? Can you help us on this? MFV Aura.
Give us the exact surah and verses, and we can look it up. I'll post it online. Yeah. Chapter 32, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's have a little look. Quranic. Is Quranic the best one? Stops. Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Let's bring up. So it is 32.
Muhsin Khan is the best one of them all. It gives a lot of information.
Send us a link there if you would.
Sure.
The advantage of Quranic is that you have several translations, and you can just go into hadiths and the tafsirs immediately from there. And most importantly, you can go straight to the sources.
Okay, so here's 32:7. Let's just use Yusuf Ali. He who has made everything which he has created most good, he began the creation of man with nothing more than clay. That's 7, 8. Oh, yes, you can
next.
Yeah, sorry, you can do it over here, can't you?
On your left side, on your left side, you have Hilal in Khan. That is the one that I'm talking about. Click on it because it's the best one of them all.
Oh, that's
on your left side.
Yeah.
Hilal in Khan. Yeah, it gives you a lot of information.
Okay, so we'll try your one. No problem. I haven't heard of that one before. Who made everything he has created good, and he began the creation of man from clay. 8. He then made his offspring from semen of worthless water. Male and female exchange worthless water, and then somebody's obviously interpreted that to mean male and female discharge. Then he fashioned him in due proportion and breathed into him the soul created by Allah for that person, and he gave you hearing, ears, sight, eyes, and hearts. Little is the thanks you give. I mean, it's always about, isn't it, about thanks? I mean, like being eternally grateful for everything. You know,
yeah, but you know what the argument is going to be? Look at the last one, and he will tell you that the order that is mentioned in the Quran is exactly the order that we have this in reality, which is absolute nonsense.
Let's bring it up again.
This is what most of the apologists do. I've heard this so many times, and it's so pathetic. And it's the despicable liquid. I don't despise my semen, excuse me very much. I treasure it. And people like what's it, Dawa man actually drinks it.
So there we go. So again, Quran, here's the link for those people who want it in the chat so that you can go look it up yourself. Make sure, you know, you do your own research on that. Oh, there we go. I'm posting it back there. Oh, somebody's dropped out. Who's that?
Why so left?
Oh yeah. He left a while ago, so it was just taking time to happen, I guess. Fruitful Discussion seems to be having a problem because he's using a VPN. So I think I had a discussion with him the other night. I think he's in a country that requires him to use a VPN to actually access externally. So one could guess he's in a Muslim majority country that, you know, where freedom of speech and access to the internet is not prescribed or allowed, should I say. So,
you know, a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people tell me, I will get your IP. I said, well, number one, you can't get my IP because if I'm using Skype or something, you don't have access to the records no, this was in Facebook. You don't have access to the records in Facebook. And number two, you will only get the IP from my VPN. Yeah, but then I can see where you are. I said, no, you cannot. Because the originating IP, if you were to get your hands on it, would only give you the address of the VPN, but not mine. People don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, if you got somebody who's very clever, that's at, you know, CIA or something, they could backtrace it to you, but you know that would be a bit of a challenge for most people to do.
He said, I hope you're using Tor because otherwise I will track back. Well, great, good luck.
So the person in the chat there is asking us to focus on verse 8. Stops. I can't see the chat now, so you might have to have a look there.
Focus on verse 8. Okay, 32:8. Then he made his offspring of semen of worthless water. Okay, can you just click on root, please?
Roots up top there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you know what it actually says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thumma, which is then, he made his progeny from min, an extract of water. Okay, I don't know how you can get progeny from water. That's an interesting concept. Despised, water despised. So the water despised. I drink water. I don't think I will drink despicable water. So why should we? Can't you come on here? What is with verse 8? God started creating humans from ground. Yeah, that's another one.
Okay, I want to welcome him as well for fruitful discussion. He obviously wanted to talk about embryology. I don't know if he's got any thoughts on this particular verse, but I'm going to let him and Stops and everybody else have a chat there. So go ahead, guys. Welcome, Fruitful, if you want to come in and have a chat.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello, for Fruitful.
How are you, Stops?
Very well. Now that I see a watermelon, I'm getting thirsty.
Are you reading?
Fruitful, we're battling again because of your VPN. Is there any way you can switch off the VPN? You're coming through not very clearly.
Me now?
No, we lost you
It's
there
the
for a
same
few
as
moments.
last time. Sometimes you come through and sometimes you don't. If you speak slowly, I'm sure we can somehow come together here.
Can you still hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Yes. Which verse were you reading?
32:8.
32:8.
I'll bring that up again for you here. 1 second.
Where apparently humans are created from a despised water.
Okay. What is the despised water? Okay. But this, I don't believe this is that the advocates for the scientific miracles, they don't use this verse usually.
Okay, but is anything here correct?
ثم جعل نسله من سلالة من ماء مهين. He made his posterity out of the extract of a liquid disdained. He's speaking about the semen.
Okay, what is correct about posterity being the basis of an extract of a disdained liquid?
يعني what exactly are you asking? Like, how did God create the human being out of the?
No, is there anything correct here that you can see?
Oh, sorry.
I don't see anything. I see it intuitive, actually.
Okay, but do you think that here anything is okay? If you look at reality and you look at yourself, you are created from the fusion of a male and a female cell. You know that,
Yes.
right? In
Yes.
reality, this is what happens. And you compare this to what it says here. That how does the one resemble the other?
You are asking, like, is man created out of the semen without like man's fluid and not the woman's fluid? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking if I look at 32:8, and if I say
Yes.
Sahih International, then he made his posterity out of the extract of a liquid disdained, which means then he, I think this is God, right? Made
Yes.
his, what is his? I don't know, his, let's say some man. So then this God
Yes.
takes the man's posterity. In other words, the children of this man are made
Yes.
from the extract of a disdained liquid. Is that what it says here?
Yes, like one after the other.
Okay.
Sulala means like one
What
after
is
the other.
what is an extract of a liquid disdained?
A liquid disdained. Let me just give me a second, Stops. I'll get you a correct translation because I'm not sure what sulala means. But just give me a second.
but also stops, to be fair. Fruitful said he wouldn't normally wanted to come on and talk about embryology. So I think we're getting sidetracked by somebody in the chat who wanted us to focus on this verse. So I'm not sure that Fruitful is really going to defend this verse as a scientifically accurate verse. So I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. But that was my.
This is what I wanted to use. I wanted to combine the two,
Okay.
because this is part of embryology. How we are created from a disdained liquid, because ma'a is water. Okay, so it talks about water, which can also be a liquid. It can also be whiskey. It can also be, but the liquid, a liquid cannot create anything.
No,
This is why I
not
want to know if in embryology there is any liquid that can be correct. It can't be.
Is the question to me?
Yeah.
Okay, can you repeat it? Sorry, I was looking somewhere on
No,
the
because
net.
if I look at the water, a liquid
Yes.
cannot create a human being.
A liquid cannot create a human being. Of course, a liquid doesn't create anything.
Exactly. So there is nothing in this sentence that is correct.
No. It's saying that God made the posterity of this man. He created out of the fluid, out of the semen.
Can you create something out of a fluid?
God creates man out of a sperm drop, and then out of a clot, and then out of like in stages.
What is a sperm drop?
A sperm drop is the semen.
Semen is something different than sperm. Semen is a liquid. Sperm is not liquid. So a sperm cannot be a drop.
Okay, so your point is that what are you trying to prove? Like the man is not created out of semen.
Correct. It's impossible.
So how is man created?
Okay.
So semen is the liquid that transported the sperm.
Those two are fused, and then you get the zygote, which is then the beginning of the multicellular organism.
Okay, can you repeat that? It got choppy a little bit throughout the call. Can you repeat just what you said again, please?
You have the two gametes. In other words, you have the male sex cell, you have the female sex cell in the form of haploids. These two haploids fuse to create a diploid, which is the full cell, the single cell complete for the cellular organism by the form of division, cell division. This is how
Yes. And where did that cell come from? It came from the man's fluid and from the...
No, it came from the gonad.
From the?
Gonad. From the testicles.
Okay. So, but the fluid, the point is that there is a fluid and you were created out of that fluid.
No, the fluid doesn't do anything. It's just a transport mechanism.
So you look at the verse as inaccurate because you feel that about all of the water, a man being created out of all of that water.
No, I'm saying it's wrong.
I understand. You say that the verse is wrong because you claim that the verse is speaking about man being created out of all of the water, which is ejaculation.
Some kind of water which is despised. Yes, that's wrong.
Okay, so what do you propose?
I would propose to correct it.
What exactly would you propose? How do you propose the man is created? Out of?
Should I repeat what I just said?
From that despised fluid. Is that correct?
That is wrong.
So what? I really don't understand. Are you saying that man is not created out of sperm or part of that sperm?
No, man is not created from a sperm.
what is he created out of? The union of the sperm and the egg.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Both I understand both to be correct.
There's no liquid involved.
Ma means a sperm in
No.
this. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Ma in this context means sperm.
No.
Ma mahin, despised fluid.
No.
طيب, go ahead. I just want to speak about my position, but after you finish your position.
No, I'm finished with my position. It's wrong.
Okay.
You can't. I mean, either you correct it, or you say, well, okay, you can't do anything with it.
No. It's not. I don't look at it this way. I look at it that God is speaking about a man being created out of a very humble beginning. Ma'in mahin means a despised fluid. You see, and sulalatin is like the. I'm not sure what it means, but it seems to be meaning an extra.
Okay.
An
Does it resemble reality? No, it does not.
The Arabs understand how people this is how they spoke when they this is the language that was used when they spoke
exactly
about conception.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it's not accurate. It's not correct. We know today that this is wrong.
It's not. You are speaking in stops. I think you are, because you are speaking as if it should be a scientifically descriptive of the of what we like of the mechanisms that go on. But I don't believe the verse is even.
No, I don't.
What exactly do you are you saying that the verse should be scientifically completely scientifically what's the word?
Accurate.
Scientifically accurate. That's what you're saying.
I just said. No, I do not.
What do you how do you view that it should be?
It should be on a very, very basic level correct.
I don't view it as incorrect because, man, we all know where men come from, where babies come from, you see?
Well, apparently not, because you don't know where babies come from, because you are telling me that this is correct.
Okay, so what is your point? Just continue. I want to speak later.
No, that's it. I'm finished.
Okay, so can I speak now?
Absolutely.
Robs? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. You wanted to talk about embryology, right? Go ahead.
Yes,
this is embryology.
There is a verse which God speaks of in Surah Al-Hajj. I'll just get the translation because, yes, you can say here, you can on verse number 22:3, okay, and going down. God says.
Sorry, you 22 or 23?
22 Al-Hajj.
22
verse number 3.
And verse number 5.
Yes.
We created you from dust, then from a drop of semen, then from a clot, then from a piece of flesh, either shaped or unshaped.
22:5, yes.
Okay.
Ya ayyuhan nas.
No, you would not need Arabic.
Okay, in the English. O people, if you should be in doubt about the resurrection, then consider that indeed we created you from dust, then from a sperm drop, then from a clinging clot, and then from a lump of flesh, formed and unformed, that we may show you, and we settle in the wombs whom we will for a specified term, then we bring you out as a child, and then we develop you that you may reach your time of maturity. And among you is he who is taken in early death, and among you is he who is returned to the most decrepit old age, so that he knows after once having knowledge nothing, and you see the earth barren. But when we send down upon it rain, it quivers and swells and grows something of every beautiful kind. That is because Allah is the truth, and because He gives life to the dead, and because He is over all things competent. What do you understand from this verse, Sobs?
This is esoteric mumbo jumbo.
Well, but what do you believe the claim that is being made here? What is the reason that God is, we believe, is speaking about this?
It's talking to 5th century camel herders who have no knowledge of these things, trying to impress them with the brilliant knowledge that the authors have of the Quran.
Okay, Robs, what do you understand from this?
Sorry, I was just busy
Rob?
doing something else. Sorry, I was
Yes,
just busy doing something else. I think you and Stop, so maybe the liberal guy can also do something. I'm sorry, I've just got something that I'm doing in the background. So have a chat with the other guys if you don't mind.
Okay. طيب, what you said is stops is partially. I see partially. I agree with that partially, because I believe that God, when He speaks about these things, He is speaking about what people already know. You see, when He speaks about creation of man, the point of this verse is to clarify to people that that God is able to resurrect us just as He created us the first time. You see, because the one who is able to create you again. This is the reason the verse was revealed. And you can, and it shows that just afterwards it says ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ وَالْحَقِّ. That is because Allah is the truth, and because He gives life to the dead, and because He is over all things competent. The verse is pointing the power of the Creator in creating man in stages, and this is evidence of His great power.
All you're doing is you're reading the Quran. I don't need you to read the Quran to me.
Yes. But
the question is why is this correct?
Why is this correct? This is correct through observation.
Okay, can you take any detail? Can you
stop? Can I just a second
and show me what is observed?
Just please. I don't want to go into something completely different. The reason God speaks about these things is to draw us draw our attention to His great power, and to clarify that to clarify to point out what we already know. You see, so when a person would look at these verses at the time of the prophets, he wouldn't, or any other person, he wouldn't dispute over these things. He understands that the human being is created out of a sperm drop.
Yeah. You're repeating. The point that I'm trying to make is I would be impressed if any of this would be correct. Why would a God tell me something that is wrong and try and impress me?
The mudgha is observed. Let's look at it.
No, it is not. Mudgha is not observed.
The verse says the mudghatin mukhallaqatin wa ghayri mukhallaqa. Like it's.
I know what the Quran says.
Formed. No. It has nothing to do with. Look, stops. This is not a scriptural argument. This is what we call a rational argument.
Okay, then make the rational argument. Show me what is mudgha.
Mudgha, what God is saying is, you were created out of a sperm drop, out of that fluid.
Okay, what is a fluid? What is a sperm drop? How can you create? I've just explained this, that you cannot.
Don't take this habit of, please, just let me continue. A sperm drop, okay, you're created out of that fluid. And then that fluid.
No. Wait. No, don't read the whole Quran. You're just repeating the whole Quran again and again and again.
No, I'm not reading.
You are reading the same thing again and again. It does not help if you read the same thing again.
I'm making a point. Continue what I'm saying. Just wait. I'm saying that we're talking about a sperm drop, the creation of man out of first sperm drop, out of a fluid, out of very humble beginnings, and then that sperm drop changes into a clot which clings onto the womb, okay, and then that clot changes into a lump of flesh. And why is it? How do we know that it changes into a lump of flesh, formed and unformed? It is because of what they call, I think, abortion. Or what's it called?
Miscarriage, abortion. I don't know. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, miscarriages. Yes, miscarriages. So what God is saying is, look at your beginnings. You see?
Okay. How long are you going to explain this?
The Arabs used to understand the lump of flesh. The lump of flesh.
How long are you going to explain this?
Huh?
How long are you going to explain the same thing again and again and again?
Okay, so now you understand. Do you agree that there is that you once were a lump of flesh?
I don't agree that I was once a lump of flesh.
Okay, what were you?
Oh my God. Come on. Look at the thing. If we created you from dust. Was I created from dust?
This is referring to the origin, because we were created out of the earth originally.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Where was I created from the earth?
Everything on
hang
the
on.
earth.
Yeah, but the Quran says we were created from water. What happened to the water?
The earth. Are you saying that you were not created out of the earth? Stops.
I was not created out of the earth. I was not created from water. I was not created from clay. I was not created from any of the things that the Quran says.
No. But you accept that you came from the earth, don't you?
No.
Where did you come from? You came from the moon, for example.
My goodness, I just explained it to you. I am the product of a male cell and fusing with a female cell.
Okay, but where was your father created from?
The same way. It was a male cell and a female cell which fused, became a zygote, became a blastocyst, and then became a embryo, fetus, baby. There you go. Same thing.
Yes. But all of that originally came from the earth.
What do you mean originally came from the earth? You mean the piece of sand got up and became a human?
What are you saying?
I'm asking, did a piece of sand, did 50 zillion sand grains get up and become a human or what?
No, you are not made of sand. You're made of turba, like turab, which is soil.
Clay. I'm not.
No. Soil or dust.
Okay, so the soil got up and became a man.
We believe that Adam was created in that way.
Okay, I know that you believe that. The question is it correct? You said that it is observed. Okay. I'll let you finish. Can you let me finish, please?
Okay, go ahead.
You said that it is observed. You said that there is evidence for this.
Yes.
Please
Intuition.
bring the evidence.
Yes. When just like a tree is created out of the earth, we were created out of the earth.
Okay, that's your assertion. Now, where's the evidence for that?
I'm telling you, are you created out of nothing?
I'm asking for the evidence, not a question what we were not created from. I want your evidence that we were created from earth.
Can I make this point, please?
No, you said you said
because I don't like dishonesty in speech. You know, I like to be honest.
For fruitful, if you speak and I speak, nobody can hear a thing. So you
Okay.
need to have a dialogue. You cannot speak yourself all the time and repeat the
Yes.
Quran. What you are doing
Yes.
is reading the Quran again and again and again. That does not help. You made
Yes. Okay.
that it is
I would
the
urge
earth.
you to be
What is
honest
from
with
the earth?
me. Please stop. Please be honest with me in your questions. This is not a just like we're just arguing. We're trying to be honest. Okay. You were trying to be honest. Do you claim that we don't originally come from the earth? Because
I
from
am
what I
not making a
understand,
claim. I am saying your
that
claim
we
is
originally
that.
came from the earth.
Okay, I'm not making a claim. You said the claim is that we came from the earth. We are created from earth. Please bring
Yes.
the evidence.
Yes. Created by God out of the earth. Okay. You would dispute with me that God is the creator, but I don't believe you can dispute with me over the fact that we came from the earth.
Please provide the evidence for this.
You know, when you can't put your hand on the sun and say, I need evidence for the sun. You see, what were you created out of? You tell me then.
Can you please do you have any evidence that we are created from earth?
Yes.
Please provide the evidence.
Observation.
Please provide the evidence.
Just on a very simple level, you eat the fruits which were created out of the earth. You were created from the nutrition which came from the earth. That's just on a very simple level.
You claimed I am created from the earth.
Yes.
Do you have evidence? If you have evidence, present it. Otherwise, we shall leave this because this is going nowhere. Okay,
I'm saying that
let's go to the next.
created out of the earth.
Then from a drop of semen, can you show me what a drop of semen is?
A drop of semen is after the human being is created. Okay?
What is a drop of semen?
The semen. You don't know what semen is.
I'm asking you, what is a drop of semen? Is a drop of semen just some liquid?
Semen is semen. I know what semen is.
Okay, what is semen?
The water that comes out of man, the sexual discharge.
Okay. Can you create anything out of this semen? Should I repeat the question, or is the question clear?
I can't create anything out of anything.
Okay. Can anything be created out of a liquid, out of water, out of semen?
Yes.
What?
Everything, every living creature, every every animal is created in that way.
Can you show me the evidence for this?
Not every animal. I don't know, like every animal, but most animals are created in this way.
Can you show me anything that you can create from a liquid?
I cannot create anything out of liquid. I said that living things are created out of semen. Okay, and then in stages.
Okay. Do you know the difference between semen and sperm?
Well, the verse has nothing to do with that.
I'm asking you, do you know the difference between semen and sperm?
Sperm, I believe, is part of the semen.
No. Semen is just the transport liquid. It's just proteins. It's nourishment and transportation. What is inside? Okay. Can I have 15 seconds? Can you give me 15 seconds?
Go ahead.
Semen is just a transport mechanism. It is nourishment. It's just proteins. The sperm is what is the cell that is required for the fertilization of the female egg. So it is the sperm. You do not need semen to have a sperm, and you cannot take semen to fertilize something. It is only the sperm, the cell, and a cell is not liquid.
So you're taking a scientific
No, it's not scientific. It's just
definition.
correct. It's just correct. I'm not going into science. I'm not taking into the composition. I'm not going into the composition of a cell. What is the content? I'm just saying it's a cell. I'm not getting scientific at all.
Going to where is that cell placed? Where is that cell?
What do you mean, where is that cell?
Where is the cell? Isn't it in the semen?
Not necessarily, no.
Where is the cell?
It can be anywhere.
Okay.
Have you heard of in vitro fertilization? Do you know what that is?
What is it transported through?
It depends where it is.
Explain in vitro fertilization. Stop.
Do you know what in vitro fertilization is? Do you know what artificial insemination is?
Yeah, okay, I understand. Okay. But the verse, I don't deny, of course I don't deny that. But the verse is speaking about the what people usually observe. You see, this is how I see it. So you were created out of semen, out of the water, the despised fluid, and that contains whatever thing is, whatever those sperm.
Okay, let's leave that. Let's go to the next one. Let us say we've covered all of that. What do you mean from a clot? What is a clot?
A clot is what clings on to the woman, to the womb.
What do you mean cling to a woman? Okay. Do you know that there's a difference between clinging and implanting?
The verse, I don't know what I know the verse speaks about clinging, like it gets attached to the woman.
Yes,
but you know, I think just so that we understand why we are going into this. Okay, I see that those verses they're not to be looked at in the way you look at them. I completely disagree with your approach. That is a very false approach. You're just picking on the. That's like saying that's like a person. Let me give you an example. That's like a person. He invites you, for example, to his house. Okay, and then you stand outside his house and you start just criticizing. Everything about the house. You see, this criticism has nowhere in these verses. You see, how I look at it is that those verses are meant to draw our attention to the fact that we were created one stage after another. You see,
you've told us this 50 million times. You don't need to explain it again.
That is not okay. So why do we look at these verses? We look at it for this reason. This is what strengthens our faith.
Okay, should they be correct? Yes or no?
They are correct.
There is nothing. Okay, I've asked you, can you show me anything here that is correct? And you have not been able to do so. You tell me you can't look for anything correct. You should look. Can you let me finish, please? You said that we cannot look at these sentences and look for truth. We cannot look to see if they are accurate. We need to accept them because they are just describing a principle that is known to people in the 5th century. Okay, this is what you are saying.
Yes,
I am saying, can I please finish? Bloody hell. What I am saying is the Quran is... The Quran is made for the people today as well. It is made for somebody like me. And what I see here is it is wrong. I don't care whether the people in the 5th century thought it's correct. I am saying it's wrong. Whoever wrote this is an incompetent, uneducated fool.
stops. You are missing the point of the verse. That's
I
my
understand. Please don't explain the point again. You've explained it at least 6 times. I understand the
Okay.
point that you are trying to make.
So
It
what
doesn't
you're
go
saying
with
is
me.
that it is inaccurate scientifically. That's what you're saying. It's
No, I am
inaccurate
saying it
scientifically.
should be basically correct. If somebody invites me to his palace and says we will have a
Yeah.
swim in the pool and then we will go to the jacuzzi, and I come there and all I find is a trailer in a caravan park, then there is something wrong.
May I add something? May I add something here? Fruitful, I think part of what Stops' complaint and mine, Stops just does it more nuanced than perhaps I might have, because he understands it better than I do. But part of the problem here is we are invited to believe that this book comes from a divine creator that has all the knowledge that could possibly be. And what we see when we examine these claims is something that only the people of the time would know or understand. They are not accurate by today's standards. And if the claim is this is a book for all people for all time, then we are left looking at this and scratching our heads and going, this is clearly not accurate by today's standards. And we know a lot more today than they did in the 7th century. So could God have made this much more accurate that would have got mine and Stop's attention, and we would have gone, holy crap, this book is really accurate. Only God could possibly have known this. As it stands, people of the time knew this. So that's part of the contention here.
Well, because the beauty of the Quran is that it speaks very succinctly and very straight to the point. You see, that's the power of the Quran. It is very like baligh means like it is very it is accurate, and it is very succinct. That's my point.
Well,
So
when we,
either
if
accurate
Allah,
or succinct, it's wrong. It makes a
let me-
lot
let me-
of vague.
please let me continue. Please stop. It
But
is
you're
a
saying the
succinct.
same thing again and again.
No. I'm just speaking. Please.
I know you're
It is-
speaking. You're speaking all the time and repeating everything.
Okay, Rob. I see the Quran to be the why it takes hold on my heart is because I see those verses to make sense in those meanings are. I look at them. I never even nothing crosses to my mind even that they are inaccurate. You see,
But do you care if something is true or not?
Okay, but Fruitful, that's the problem that I maintain every religious person has, and you unfortunately, along with everybody else, falls into the same thing. You don't examine these critically. You just accept it that it's. And I also agree that it's vague, it's not clear. And a scientist today could write a much more accurate account of that would not change over time. And so when we look at it, that are non-Muslims, we look closely and we go, this is nowhere near as accurate as it could be. God could have written this far better than he did. You, on the other hand, have got blinkers on, like Muslim dark glasses. You read this and it doesn't even, you don't even stop to think maybe this is not entirely accurate, and you just carry on. And that's my claim about all religious people. They are not critical enough when they study their own worldview.
Oh, okay. What I say, please don't cut my line of thought, please, because I just can't speak I'm trying to concentrate, please. Why I see this? Could God have written it in another, spoken it in other ways, which are more accurate scientifically? That's what you're saying.
No.
Well, yes, I am. Maybe
Not
Stops isn't.
scientifically. It's not scientific.
Yes.
It's just accurate. It's just correct. It has nothing to do with science.
Why would God speak of things scientifically?
No,
Why?
it's not scientifically. This is the point. It should just be correct.
Okay, well, I mean, Stops, for me, it's based on science, obviously, but apart from that, I mean, correct. How do we know it's correct? Because we've obviously used scientific methodology to understand how it actually works. Why should it be? You asked the question because the claim is that this book is for all people for all time, and it's a miraculous book by the creator of the universe, the entire universe, with black holes, supernova, galaxy clusters, and the author cannot seem to get the accuracy of the human creation process precise enough.
Yes, Rob. يعني, when God speaks about the heavens, when He speaks about our creation, when He speaks about these things, the point is not to give a scientific description. Okay,
No,
why? Why is that? Because most people, they're uneducated about science. They don't think scientifically.
Have you seen my video response I made to the No Clash video? If you answered, you were cutting off. The question was whether you saw my response video.
Fruitfully being cut off there. We cannot hear you.
Okay, in case you haven't, this is something that I came up with, which is not scientific, which is not anything. It is very, very, whatever. If I say we took two tiny halves, one from the man, one from the woman, and we merged them into a single seed implanted in the woman's belly, and from this a new human being will arise. Now that's not like detailed or anything. It is very there's nothing to it, but it is correct. And this is the point that I'm trying to make. You don't have to be accurate and scientifically accurate and blah, blah, blah. You can be like even esoteric if you want, or spiritual, but you can do it in a sentence like this, and at least it would be correct. So why doesn't God do this? Oh, okay, dropped, and he's going back, I think. So the point I'm trying to make, I think he says, when he says scientific, he means detailed, that, okay, you need to now go, that it's a gonad and it's a haploid, and but no, we don't need to go to this level. We don't need to go to mesoderm and all the detailed explanations. I think this is the level that I would expect from the Quran, and obviously it's not there.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just general information. It's also very detailed. When it comes to the Quran, it will give you more broader description. But when it comes to the Hadith, it will give you actually detailed information. That's why I repeated the stops points here, where it says in Sahih Bukhari, volume 4, 55, 549, that speaks about how you create a child, basically.
Can you listen to me now?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. So I'm just gonna. I'm just going to respond to your point where you say that it's not supposed to give a scientific explanation. So I'm going to give you a response what I think on that. Is that fine?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Sahih Bukhari, according to the thing that I'm showing right now, shows how a child is actually created. It says actually 40 days in the stomach, in the womb, and then you become a clot for 40 days, and then you become a flesh. So it's actually saying that this is going to happen in stage 1, and then stage 2. It's going to tell you what happens. Very different stage 1, and then stage 3 is going to be very different from stage 1 and stage 2. So it's being very accurate. Another one that I can show you, just so you understand what.
So what is the claim? What is your claim?
The claim is this is wrong. In stage 1, this happens. Stage 2, it happens.
Okay, what exactly do you claim is wrong?
Okay, so what's wrong with this one is it's not stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. This happened. It's actually happening at the same time, all of it. So bones is not at stage 1 or stage 2. It's happening all the time. Arms, flesh, or whatever. It's not happening on one stage. It's happening all the time.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the verse, I think the hadith is saying يُجْمَعُ خَلْقُهُ, which is his creation is collected, okay, for 40 days, okay, and then he becomes a clot. He becomes a clot. Yes.
This is wrong. This is not actually from Muhammad's time, to be honest. This one comes from the Greeks and the Romans. They had this information already before Muhammad, and they were wrong as well.
Okay. I don't really.
Have you heard about this?
I can't really respond to that. I can't really respond to that. But what I can tell you is, it doesn't necessarily follow. It could be happening. Like there are distinctions between the stages. So when God says, فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا, we covered the bones with flesh. It doesn't mean that there was no flesh before. It wasn't just a skeleton. You see, there could have been some form of flesh before that. You see.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Quran, it actually says that. Let me see if I flesh, and then little lumps, bones. It actually make a distinguish between all of them. What I'm just telling you is it's actually wrong on all of it. It's all at the same time. The flesh, the bones, and whatever it is, the rest that's left. It all happens from the beginning and forward. Maybe something start at day 1, something start at day 10, something start at day 21. But they all happen at the same time for 120 days. That the Quran actually explains.
But let me ask you, why are you concentrating on this?
Because you said, good question. So you asked me like this, or you said to stop. I think you said that this is not supposed to be a scientific explanation. And when I say that when actually the Quran or the Hadith is very specific, then wouldn't that be understood as something you can match with today's knowledge?
I don't. It is matched with observation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I look at, I didn't really study this hadith in depth. Okay?
Sure.
And I'm not a scholar anyway. But when I look at these things, it doesn't cross to my mind that I have to go into that stuff and try to, you see, and try to clarify those stages where they come from. I just understand that we were created in stages, and how exactly those stages
were created in stages. We are not created in stages.
Yeah, that's my whole point. It's not in stages. It all happens at the same time. The bones start from very, very early, and they continue for 9 months. It doesn't start at month 4 or day 40. You know,
continuous stages.
What is the beginning?
What's the point? What's your name?
Liberal.
Liberal. Okay,
yeah.
Liberal. when I look at for example, a video of that of how the embryo develops.
Yeah.
That for me, that reminds me of this. It doesn't remind me of anything else.
It reminds you what? I missed your point. Remind you of what?
It reminds me of my. It reminds me that I was collected in. I was collected one way or another in my mother's womb, and then 40 days. I can't really know that through observation. But then I understand that I was a clot. I was also a clot, and I understand that I was a piece of flesh. Okay, but when it comes to the distinct stages, how do we distinguish these stages? It doesn't occur to me.
Okay, so yeah,
I have to.
Sorry, I want to make sure you speak to you finish.
Can you listen to me?
Yeah. I hear you out. Sorry, I hear you. Yeah.
But that's not at all what I would even care about. You see, I don't look at these. And what is the meaning? Why did the Prophet say this?
Okay. Yeah. So what you're saying, what I hear you say this, and correct me if I'm mistaken. You're saying that you're not that interested in this.
Liberal, the problem with your approach, is that you are missing the point. This is what I'm saying.
Okay, speak to your finish. Can I speak?
Yes. What God is saying, what the Prophet ﷺ is clarifying, is that everything is in this hadith is that everything is predetermined. Okay, everything is written for you. Since you are conceived until the day you die, your provision is written. What you will gain is written. Your actions are written, and that everything happens according to God's plan. This is the reason, and the reason, and the point of proof for that. If you go down into the hadith, you will find that over there.
actually read this one.
Yes.
It says that basically the angel has a plan that they blow into your soul, life
Yes,
into your
they
soul,
blow the soul,
and
soul after
everything
40
is
times.
decided. I totally agree with you on this one.
Listen,
But what?
hang on, let me just say, for Fruitful, you have been talking and we have let you finish. Please extend the courtesy to others. If somebody else is talking, let them finish and don't immediately interrupt them. You are constantly talking over other people. Please stop this.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just take over. So
I'll try
yes, on this one, what I hear you say, and you can say yes or no. You say that you're not that interested in this topic. You just want to get the big point, which is basically that your life is decided before you actually become, before you're born, right?
And how do we know that? How do we know
Because the
it's
hadith says so.
decided?
Because the hadith says
No,
so.
because God created you. He created you. That's the point.
Fine, I'm fine with that. But the main point that I want to take from this is that you're not that interested in this things because the hadith go actually further than what you are interested in. It actually says 40 days, then next thing, 40 days, then next thing. So it's making more claims than you are interested in. But just to make this one super easy.
Why did the Prophet say 40 days? Do you know that? Do you know why?
Because he think that is right. That is the reason. Because Allah said so.
No. The reason is because we believe the Prophet he was speaking about the type. The point is that when is the soul breathed into? When does the soul attach to the body? That's the point.
After 120 days. Okay, let's continue. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's the point of that.
Yeah, I know about this. Yeah. So next thing here, Muhammad is making some very serious claim, something you can measure today, saying that the man's water, basically speaking about the sperm, and the woman's water, speaking about her equivalence of that, whatever that is, whoever comes first, the child will resemble that parent. Maybe you're not that interested in this one, but it is actually making claims. And what we are doing is we are just fact checking. Is this claim true?
I don't know this hadith, but what is this hadith?
This is Sunan An-Nasai, volume 200, and I also have Sahih Bukhari on same hadith, saying the same thing.
Okay.
Which one do you want?
I don't really look when it says Sahih. You have to look at who
Sahih
said
Bukhari.
Sahih.
Do you want Sahih Bukhari? Okay, so this is narrated by.
I don't know. Maybe it is. It is. Maybe it might be.
No, this is An-Nasai, but I have Sahih Bukhari saying the same thing. Do you want it? It's saying the same thing.
If it says the same thing, I will accept Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah,
yes.
it's the same thing. Do you want it?
Bring it on, yes.
Okay, let's bring it. Oh, you don't know me. I'm kind of new to you, but I've doing this for a long time. Okay, Sahih Bukhari in front of you here. Sahih Bukhari, volume 455, 546, saying the same thing. If a man can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. If a man has intercourse with his wife and get discharged first, the child will resemble the father. And if the woman gets discharged first, then the child will resemble her. Saying the same thing. Whoever comes first.
Copy again.
Sorry? So it's making claims. Even though you're not interested in this, it's making claims. But we are interested in this. How would you respond to this?
Okay, so can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I accept the hadith as it is. Like, I accept that but I have to look at the Arabic first to check that the translation is correct, and I have to understand the hadith. But I accept the hadith as it is.
Let me show it. Here it
so the discharge that comes first. Can you?
Here it is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Can you just speak for a longer while, please?
Sure.
Can you speak for a longer while?
You want me to speak? Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. I just want to ask a question. Where are we going now? Because I'm not really following. What is the point we're trying to get to at the moment?
I think that he said, a brother here said that Islamic scripture does not necessarily address scientific claims, because some Muslims actually hold this position, and I'm saying that maybe you're not interested in this. Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah. So our brother here doesn't say that he holds scientific, that Islamic scripture doesn't say or hold scientific positions. Well, we actually see that Islamic scripture actually are claiming scientific points. So we want to hear how we respond to these claims.
I don't think that science is able to speak about this. The science has to be mute about this. What do you say about this? Like إذا غشي المرأة فسبقها ماؤه كان الشبه له.
Yeah.
Is this correct to you?
إذا سبق.
We know that you accept this, but is it correct?
Tell me exactly.
I can post a link if you want. I'll post a link.
Okay, for Fruitful, you will have to repeat that because that was inaudible.
Okay, I posted the link for you in our chat.
No, he's trying to respond, but we can't hear him.
Yeah. Mr. Fruitful, I posted a link in the chat so you can look it up yourself. Take a moment. I'm going to leave the mic for someone else who want to speak. But at least now you have the link so you can look it up. So just accept that for now it says what it says in English. Do you agree with it? Or else you can read the link.
I think I've been listening in, and presumably he's going the route of this is just all a message, and he's not claiming. He seems to not be claiming that any of this stuff is scientific. That seems to be his route. And in fact, other Muslims say the same thing. Some of them go, "Hey, well, science keep changing. We're not going to accept science. We're just going to go with the message in the Quran, and we're going to some degree ignore science." And that seems to be the route he's taking, because he said earlier, science is moot on this point. Now, I strongly disagree with that, because anything that happens in the natural world would fall under the preview of science. So I disagree with that statement, but presumably, and he's dropped off again. So I think we're not going to get very far with him in terms of trying to defend anything scientific. Anything you bring him that says, "Hey, that's not what it is scientifically," he's going to respond, "Well, I don't really care. It's not a scientific book," or some words to that effect. So I'm not sure that we're going to get much further in that way. I think more.
He says it's observation.
Yeah. I think you might be better placed for something like the inheritance claim, or something that they can't dance around and make other sort of excuses for. That seems to me a better approach, because he seems to be claiming that there isn't scientific evidence here, and he's trying to explain the observations, which obviously don't match. But I don't think we're going to get further from what I can tell.
I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, he wants to talk about embryology, but he doesn't understand anything about embryology, so I don't quite understand. Okay, I've just activated you.
No, I did.
Oh, we both did the same thing at the same time then.
I don't know if he's still there.
Is the brother there?
Okay, we can hear you, but we can't really understand.
Okay. Is the brother there, or is he gone?
No, now he's here. Yeah. Liberal is here.
Okay. I accept the hadith. I believe I read, yes. If a man has sexual intercourse with his wife and gets discharged first, the child will resemble the father, and if a man gets discharged first, the child will resemble her. If that is what the hadith is saying, I accept it totally. I don't reject it, and I don't reject anything that the Prophet said. But your question is that scientific?
Yeah. Do you think that actually, if a man comes first,
yes,
that the child will become a boy, and if the woman comes first, that the child will become a girl? Is that your position?
I'm not really sure, because there is another سبق, or I think there is another version of the hadith. Maybe you could have read about it. Was there a version that said غلبة?
Yeah, I understand part of Arabic, but not that much.
Okay, but there was another. I believe there was another hadith which said غلبة.
Okay, what would that change?
That would give you information that when the غلبة means just a second.
God, this is so complicated. Do you accept that this is the truth? Is this reality? Does this correspond with reality the way it is
I
written?
accept everything the Prophet said. Stops. I accept
Does that
everything.
mean if you say accept, you say this is true?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if I have
إذا على الرجل. Yes.
if I have sexy time with my wife, tonight,
yes.
so if she comes first, our child will become a daughter.
No, that's not necessarily what it says. It says حديث يقول إذا على ماء الرجل كان ذكرا. Well, I'm not really. I can't really answer to this, liberal. But I can tell you that regardless, what is your point? You're saying that.
So in case you missed it because it was bad connection before, I sent the link in our chat.
Okay.
So you can read it take your time in Arabic. But what Muhammad is saying here is basically whoever comes first. If the father comes first, the child will become like his father, meaning boy, or if the mother comes first, become a girl. So this is anti-intellectual, I would say. Because what we know is
how can you disprove that?
No, because that's not how it works. Who comes first? Because the child doesn't. The woman doesn't have any sperm that actually produces a child. That it's the man that has both XX, meaning the child become a girl, or XY, which means the child become a boy. So he has both. So whoever actually just penetrate the egg, will choose the gender. It's not up to who comes first, because the women just have liquid.
That's completely unrelated to anything within the egg.
So it's not who comes first.
Okay.
It's what sperm actually penetrate the egg.
Listen, if you take artificial insemination, does the syringe have an orgasm or something? If you have it artificially, there is no orgasm involved.
But are you saying that it is completely independent of what the egg said? Okay, I don't really know anything about that.
It's all with the man's sperms. Man's sperm has both. Women gender, if you want to say that, it's actually biological sex, and also male sex. So it's not related to women. The only thing that women's liquid does, it makes it easier to penetrate while you have sex. That's all it makes. It doesn't change the gender. Muhammad is seriously wrong here.
Allah says that whichever of the two comes first. We have to understand what it means by comes first. I don't really know.
Discharge.
I don't know. Is it the discharge or is it like?
Sahih Bukhari says discharge. Very, very clear. Here it is in front of you. In case you missed it, here it is. Discharge first.
Yes.
So the problem is not.
Can you listen?
Continue. Continue.
Yes. I don't know which of the. I don't really know what is meant by this coming first. Okay. But just let's stay away from what I don't know. Let's speak about what I know. Okay.
Sure.
When you say that fine. If it were as you say, okay. If it were as you say that it is independent of anything to do with the mother, that's your point, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you say that, then you have to prove that there is no connection between the two. That means you have to prove that what the Prophet ﷺ said is false, and I don't believe you can do that.
I mean,
course you can.
it's men that bears both sexes, X and XY.
Yeah, yes, but that doesn't mean that it is independent of anything within the mother.
Yes, it is.
Why couldn't, for example, let's say that it means discharge. So the discharge of the woman comes first, and then it is decreed that the child is a female.
No, you didn't understand the point. The point is that the female sex cell, the female gamete, has no influence on the gender of the child.
Yes, but that, as I said, you have to understand what it means for comes first, and then to understand.
No, you
yes,
don't understand what we're
that's
saying.
what the hadith is saying. I don't really know. It could mean that
discharge.
discharge comes first. It could mean something else. I don't know.
No,
But
it's
even-
not the
even if-
discharge. It
Huh?
is not the discharge we are talking about. We are not talking about the discharge. It is not the discharge. Not the discharge. This is not about the discharge.
What is this about?
Ah, finally, thank you. It is about the gender of the baby. The
Yes,
gender of the
that's what
baby
I am
is
saying.
the
That
gen-
is what I am saying.
the
I am saying
gender of the baby is determined by the male sex cell, not by the discharge.
Yes, I understand what you are saying. I don't really know that. But if what
What
you
am I
said,
saying? What am I
if
saying?
what
Can you
you said
repeat?
is
Can
true,
you
I'm
repeat
saying-
what I said?
yes, you are saying is the gender is determined by causes within the male's sperm.
Well done. Yes. So it has
Yes,
nothing to do
yes,
with the
yes.
discharge.
I am saying I don't know that.
What do you mean you don't know that? You didn't
I
take
don't know
biology?
that.
Yeah.
You didn't?
No. I don't know that to be. It could be more than one cause. It could the mother's substance could be a cause. I don't really know.
No,
I haven't
it's
studied
not.
the topic.
This
Okay,
is what you learn in school.
I'm saying that I don't know. However,
Sure.
even if your case was correct, it doesn't prove the hadith false.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Look at the
Why
hadith, okay? Let me just make it super easy. The man's water, thick and white, right? So let's say that the thick one is the liquid, not sperm, right? The white one is a sperm. Liquid is just a liquid that transports the sperm. The sperm is actually one that actually has the chromosome, right? So the woman also have transportation. It's called, like it says here, thin and white and yellow. So both man and the woman has liquid, but none of them has chromosomes that create children. Only the man has that. It's called sperm. So far, you follow me, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Men has, when you have discharge, they have liquid, but doesn't have any sperm. Oh, it doesn't have any chromosome. It's a sperm that has that. Women also have discharge, but they have zero sperm, zero chromosomes. It's only the chromosomes which you found in the sperm that creates a child. It's independent of the women.
No. The hadith doesn't speak about chromosomes.
No, that's what I'm telling you. So this one is super wrong, regardless.
No.
It says that whoever comes first, the child will either become a boy or girl, or personality become like the father. We're just wrong either way, you know.
Look, liberal.
Yes.
I don't. There are many things that play in the universe. I don't really. I don't really know. How what the causes are within those things, within those cells. But if what you said is true, it doesn't mean that the hadith is false. Why is that? Because there could be, for example, it could be the case that whenever the discharge comes first, or whatever is meant by coming first is the case, It could be that the child is born a male or a female, according not caused by that. The hadith doesn't even speak about. I don't know if it's a cause or not a cause, but it speaks that إذا غلب, if إذا سبق, if it comes first, then it would be a male child. If the female's discharge comes first, it would be a female child. So to prove that's wrong, you have to show that there was some form of coming first, but the man came first, and then the child came out as a female. That would be something which goes against what the hadith says.
No.
So I would show you evidence here from Ibn Kathir.
You don't understand what this is about.
Stop. Can I just get this one point and then I'll give the mic? So Ibn Kathir disagree with you. Quran 86 verse 7. If you go to Tafsir, you know about this page, right? Quranic.com.
But do you know how Ibn Kathir works?
Hold on, don't be afraid. Which page do you accept? Do you like Q Tafsir, Quranic.com?
No. He's talking about the Tafsir.
I just want to make sure that I. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not afraid, my friend. Listen to me.
Yeah.
The tafsir, I'm asking you, do you accept everything that Ibn Kathir says without evidence from the Prophet, understanding? I don't do that.
No, you fact check everything Ibn Kathir says with the scripture. So Ibn Kathir is.
Yes. You try to understand the evidence from the Quran and from the Sunnah according to.
Yeah, but if you don't like Ibn Kathir, you can go to Ibn Abbas, right? Which is the cousin of Muhammad. If you don't like that, you can go to Jalalain. Can go to others. There's many of them. So
for example, I understand that I'm not a scholar, but you cannot.
Ibn Kathir is a scholar.
If you just read those interpretations, translations.
I welcome people to change their minds. They can look up verses. I have no problem with actually updating your thoughts. I think that's actually a sign of strength. I think science also teaches this thing that you can always update information, update conclusion. I think that's beautiful.
Yes, of course.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Qurtubi is another one. So you can always come back a week, 2 months later, and says, "Now I have researched this. I have a new conclusion." I think that's a sign of strength. That is my understanding.
Liberal, I don't think I will research this anyway, because I don't really. I believe in the Quran. I believe that the Prophet says what he says is true because I believe in the Prophet. So I believe that whatever contradicts what he said is wrong.
Well, it's actually there's actually a phenomena called confirmation bias. Have you heard about this before?
No. I don't understand me. I am saying that because I know the Prophet ﷺ is a prophet from Allah.
Yes.
I accept everything he says to be true.
Yeah, bro, you are on a totally different level.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just do this for the audience, okay? For those who don't know, you go to the Ibn Kathir, or you go to Quran 86, verse 7. Ibn Kathir, so I won't make stuff up. I respect Islamic scripture enough to never misrepresent this. And I'm an academic myself. I would never make up stuff. Yeah. So let me just read this one and I'll just give up the mic.
Yes.
Sexual fluid that comes from bursting from both man and woman, the child is produced from both of them, which is false. Can you guys see this?
He was created out of a fluid gushing forth.
Yeah. It doesn't come from both of them. It only comes from the man. The fluid that comes from the woman is to help the man penetrate with his penis through her vagina. That's all it is. It doesn't help create the child. So Ibn Kathir is seriously wrong. He's just following what Muhammad said here.
The verse doesn't necessarily mean that, because there is two. I think there is two. Can you show me the screen again?
Which one? The tafsir or hadith?
You are saying that خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ. Allah says خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ.
The tafsir. Yeah. So here it comes.
He was created out of a sexual fluid that comes.
Yeah.
He created a sexual that comes bursting forth from the man and the woman. So you are highlighting this that the child is produced from both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. طيب.
From the fluid
and-
coming from both of them, which is
Yes.
in line with the hadith. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't see how is this got to do with the hadith?
The
Sexual
hadith
fluid
is saying the
comes
same
from-
thing. Either it comes from the man if he comes first, or it comes from the woman if she comes first,
Yes.
which is false.
But does the verse speak about this?
The hadith
No, it's
speak
not
about
the verse. It's the hadith and the tafsir.
hadith. Agree with the tafsir. The tafsir
Yes.
derives from the Quran, the hadith, and the seerah. It's three.
Yes, but what is? Can you just lay out your point clearly? Because I don't.
The point is, when Muhammad is saying in the hadith here, that you can see the man's water is thick and white, and the woman's water is thin and yellow. Whichever of them comes first, the child resemble their parents. The child will become a boy if the man comes first, or the child will become a woman if they come first. Just like Tafsir Ibn Kathir is saying, it comes. The child
I
will
don't see the connection then.
Well, the truth is, the child only is dependent on the man. If the man has XY chromosome,
What Ibn Kathir says is one thing, and then what the verse says is what.
it's the hadith that I'm referring to. It's Sahih Bukhari, Sunan An-Nasai, both are Sahih.
Okay.
So do you accept that they're wrong? They're not just wrong; they're seriously wrong.
I accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ يَخْرُجُ مِن بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. Okay.
All right, I give up the mic.
No,
man is created.
we are not talking about the sentence in the Quran.
What are you talking about? Why did he
We
go
are
to that?
talking about the two hadiths which claim that the gender of the baby is dependent on the liquid produced by man and woman.
Okay.
And all that liberal was doing is he was showing you two Sahih hadiths which were saying this, and then he substantiated, corroborated this with a tafsir by Ibn Kathir.
Okay.
And
now I
the
understand
question to you, and the question to you is whether this is correct or whether you see the really heavy mistake in this.
No. I believe that man is created out of the mother's and the father's substance.
No, only the man. We know that. It's 100% the man. The woman's liquid. No, the woman's liquid only help the man penetrate when they have sex. That's all it is. It makes her feel good and also penetrate.
He changes liquid to substance.
Are you saying that the man's water doesn't come with the woman's water and then the child is formed? That is what really happens.
No, it's about the gender. The question is, do you accept this?
About the gender.
Is it true? Okay. Do you see that there is a mistake here?
The verse speaks about that man is created out of a gushing fluid.
No, we're not talking about a verse.
What Ibn Kathir says that the verse speaks about man being created
We are
out of.
not talking about the Quran. We are not talking about a verse.
Well, there is a big misunderstanding.
There is a big misunderstanding. Because you think we are talking about the verse, talking about the creation of the water of the sperm from between the backbone and the ribs. We're not talking about that.
Okay.
We're not talking about the verse in the Quran.
Can I speak about what I wanted to come here and speak about? Because
no,
I don't.
We're pretty much done now, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one last question.
It's time to go now.
Okay, Rob, take over. Yeah.
I think we're going to bring the show to a close now. Unless stops you want to continue, but I'm done.
Can I say one last thing, please?
What is the last thing? What do you want to talk about?
Yes. I believe that there is no conflict between reason and revelation.
Okay,
because
good. All right.
Both come from reason is a faculty within us created by God, and revelation comes from God.
Great.
There could be a misunderstanding, but that is always either because the hadith is not authentic, for example, or we misunderstand the hadith, or it could be because the reasons we believe are not correct reasons.
Okay.
See, there is always So I'm not in the position to try to reconcile between what you people look to as contradictions. However, my point is, which I came to speak about in the beginning, is that the scientific miracle discourse is not a correct method for proving the truth of Islam, let's say, because the Prophet did not use any scientific miracle claims in his call to Islam.
Okay.
What he used was
Okay,
rational and scriptural evidences. This is my point.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I think we'll bring it to a close. Stops, do you want to do the hadith of the day? I want to thank everybody for joining.
Now he tells me.
There's no compulsion in religion.
No. This is what do you mean there is no compulsion in religion?
No,
This is a verse.
I'm nearly there. We had so many hadiths today that it would be okay. There we go. The next one in my list is. Oh no, I don't believe it. Okay, this is.
You're going to share screen, Stops? Are you sharing screen or just reading?
No, I can't. This is too much. Okay.
Rob,
what I am doing.
Rob, can I please ask you a question?
We're
Just
done.
a final question.
Fruitful.
I understand, but yes, but can I ask you about what the topic?
I'm going to take the next one. Narrated Anas. When Abdullah bin Salam heard the arrival of the Prophet in Medina, he came to him and said, I am going to ask you about 3 things which nobody knows except a prophet. Number 1,
Yes.
What is the first portent of the hour? Number 2, what will be the first meal taken by people of paradise? You know what? This is something that Abu used the other day. Number 3, why does a child resemble its father and why does it resemble its maternal uncle? And Muhammad said, Gabriel has just told me these answers. So Gabriel just told me that from amongst the angels is the enemy of the Jews. So the first portent of the hour will be a fire that will bring together the people from the east to the west. The first meal of the people of paradise will be the extra lobe of fish liver. As for the resemblance of the child to its parents, if a man has sexual intercourse with his wife and has an orgasm first, the child will resemble the father. And if the woman gets discharged first, the child will resemble her. Sahih Bukhari 455, 546.
Thank you very much.
Is that coincidence or what?
Rob, can I please ask you, please? Rob, can I please ask you? Rob, please, can you tell me what is the next topic going to be about?
We haven't decided yet, but maybe
you give us the topic.
Give us a suggestion.
I suggest we speak about. I wish to, because I wanted to speak about the what makes the Qur'an very powerful in sense of the rational arguments presented by the Qur'an. I think that would be a very good topic. Like things about, for example, God's oneness, how we know that, how we know resurrection, how we know like these things. There are many.
5 minutes. What is the rest? This is just 5 minutes, and then.
No, the rational scriptural arguments.
Yes,
like
that's maximum 3 minutes plus 2 minutes debunking it, and then after 5 minutes we're done.
Subs, you don't have to speak this way. You haven't heard them still, so that you can debunk.
Yes, I have.
You haven't. I believe you haven't. I encourage you, Rob, to take this topic because I do know a lot about this.
So, do you want to come back next Friday and defend the rational arguments for why the Quran is true?
Give me. I can give you like a candidates for that. Like what, for example, I know that there are many topics about that. There are the topics of God's oneness, for example, the arguments for God's oneness. There is the topic of the Creator. Why is He able to resurrect us? You see.
You forgot the topic.
Huh?
You also do the fitra.
The fitra, I don't go back to
PhD from Zakir Naik Seminary.
stops. There was a big misunderstanding last time. I listened to what was going on. Okay, I feel that I didn't explain. I don't know whether you understood it or not. Okay, I believe in the fitra. That is true. I have fitra, but the problem is that maybe I couldn't explain to you what I really meant by the rational arguments for creation, for the meaning of creation.
You explain it. We don't need explain. You don't need to explain everything 15 minutes, every single word.
It's okay. You can assume, you can assume maybe perhaps one day you will come back to understanding that we are indeed created. But we can assume, for example, presume that we are created. And then we go on to explaining the rational arguments in these verses.
Okay.
All right. Let's
agree to that, Rob.
We'll have a discussion about it, and then I'll let you know. Okay. During the week.
Listen, not for 20 minutes. This must be maximum 10 minutes.
Like I speak for 10 minutes.
Yes.
I believe that this topic it can be presented in less than a minute. But the problem is there are many.
One claim, one example. That's it. Brilliant.
Huh?
Brilliant. One claim, one example. Brilliant.
I will prepare the topic, for example, of God's oneness. You see?
Okay, super.
And I'll try to read about this topic, and because I expect many people to be asking a lot of questions about this topic.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Good.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for the panel. Thank you to all the viewers. Thank you for Stops for hosting it. And we'll be back again at 8 p.m. UK time next week, Friday. Thank you to you all, and good night to you, and good night, Stops. Thank you so much for hosting. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everybody. And if somebody knows how to pray, please pray that Nadir Ahmed stops running away from me.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much, and good night to everybody.
Bye-bye.